Okay. Hi there. Welcome to this live stream and anyone that may be watching. Sorry about the delay. Just had to take some things off the list in the background. Just adjust that. Okay. Look a bit different this time round. Got rid of some weight off the face. Okay, wow, that number jumped up very quickly. I don't know how true that figure is because I know last time 9 people joined and suddenly in seconds everyone left. But welcome to anyone that is here watching this live stream. Yeah, and it now says 1 person. I guess that means I'm the only one here. Well, okay. So I'll just have to wait, see if anyone joins along for this. Did do a poll. Let's just see how it goes, I guess. Don't know if notifications have been sent out or what. Just let me know if the audio is working, if you can hear me clear. I guess there's no point really saying anything yet if no one's here. Of course, if anyone watches this on catch up, rewind, you probably best skip ahead. What to do? I know I started a bit late. Unless it's a visual glitch. I had this on mobile where I tried doing a live stream and there were people watching, but the emojis, the live reaction wasn't showing on screen, but it still counted. But it looks like I'm the only one here, which isn't ideal. Well, what to do? I'll just wait. Okay, we've got Kitty here. Welcome. I think you're the only one present. We'll just see how many people show up because, I mean, I'm going to start off with true crime anyway, as a bit of an introduction. I don't get, I did a community post days ago about upcoming days, and a few people said yes. The odd person said they don't mind. So you'd think that would sham. Even did a heads up earlier, giving the time and everything, and 6 upvotes, but yes, I don't know what's going on. Bit of a disaster, but it's not the first time. Could be worse. Like that time when I did a live stream during the afternoon. There was only 1 person watching, and that was me. Wow. We got Maddie, welcome. Tomorrow or the day after, I'll need to catch up on Kenny Beach Maddie. Reason being, some viewer request to catch up on, so that's what I'll do. Just let me know if the audio is working, if that's okay, or Sam. So what I'll do, talk about the case first. I know the title is more about psychology, but that can be for later if it gets a bit too heavy. Maddie, I see you got rid of the Wolverine. Yeah, I feel a bit lighter now. I've probably lost a bit of weight from getting rid of that. And if there's, well, there should be time. If there's enough people watching, then I'll talk about the main other stuff. But at the moment, it's a little bit quiet. We need to wait for more people to join. Audio, super. Good to see. Talk about some cases, no Presgrove, as said. I just say true crime, but it can be mysteries as well. How the psychology side can slide into it and how it can be applied. Backstory, catch up, of PTSD and all that, well, that can be for later if there is a time to do it. I might have to, depending on how it goes, I might have to rename this live. Okay. So welcome to anyone that's watching in the background, if there are any other people. I wonder if it's because the notifications aren't being sent out. Well, anyway, in terms of Noah Presgrove, mainly applied to psychology, first video being Mikey Lair. There was applying stuff. As separately, individually, I was just doing some videos on the sideline, like with PTSD, understanding it, backstory, and all of that. Just happened that Mikey Lair, Partiga in the Noah Presgrove case, had PTSD before Noah's death, and it was about wondering what caused it exactly, what was the reasons behind it, and so on and so on. I'll probably get it on. I'm not going to play it, but if I get it up on screen, I can like maybe read it out, or if there is anything to read. Where is that? I've done quite a few videos. Yeah. So actually, the very first video that I did do in regard to the PTSD psychology approach was Presgrove, and then transitioned on to the core videos. Just highlighting it from how's Mikey Lair impacted by it, what goes through his mind at the time, etc. I mean, before, I was probably applying it in other ways. Dylan Brown's case, that was just more common sense. At the end of the day, you don't really need psychology, you just need common sense, and that's enough to get an idea of humans and the way some true crime goes. That's all it really needs. Welcome. Anyone else watching in the background, if any? Is anything else working? That's all there. That's all there. I'm just waiting for more people to join. Seems kind of pointless jumping in too soon if not enough people are present. It's weird because I even set it up as well earlier, about an hour earlier. I really don't get sometimes. 17,000 subscribers, where the fuck are people at? It's ridiculous. Sometimes I'm politically incorrect. I'm not a do-gooder like some people. If I see bullshit or see inconsistent patterns, I'll acknowledge it. Maybe it's the name of the live stream. Is it worth renaming it? No point. It doesn't seem to show on mine. I don't think it's possible to rename the live on the spot, you know. I just thought do a bit more of a focused video because it seemed like when I was touching upon it here and there, the theme of it, there was, well, it looked like there was a bit of traction, not traction, interest. But I guess that's just not the case. What else is there? Kenny Veach case, we can apply the psychology there as well. What's going through the mind of Kenny, how he is, what was he thinking at the time, did it impact his decision making? What was psychological, what was planned, what was by his actions? I might as well just do a little summary, tick the boxes, just says no clickbait as well. Don't want any of that. Cover my angles. In regard to psychology videos that I've done, whilst actually, let me just check the date of it, the Mikey Lair one. It's probably longer than you think when it was done. But I think what I'm going to do with this traction and whatnot, now it's going downhill, probably time to do Kenny Veach. Ideally, I wanted to try and branch out, but clearly it's not working. Got to catch up with what Jeff Clark's referring to, Maddie. I can't remember what it is. Do some coverage there. Whether people watch the Kenny Veach videos, there's no point sitting on it, is there? Just get it done. Right, when was this uploaded exactly? The 3rd of March 2026. Okay, some months ago. So yeah, 3rd of March, did a bit of PTSD, but I think it was probably March, to be honest, when I started just doing a bit of research on that, and then it just happened to tie in. Should look into Nolan Wells' case. Yeah. Is that the guy where they were in the water or something and he drowned? I was considering that, but you know, after covering the Nancy Guthrie case, which is supposed to be really popular, it's just like a ghost town. I just don't understand it. You know, previously, well, there's one I did. Dylan Rounds. That was a suggestion, a good suggestion from viewers. Followed that up, covered it, and yeah, it worked out well. You know, early midterm, that was nice. New community, fresh faces. And then did a side case on the sideline that worked well, and it was not true crime, it was a missing person, the Christine Passe Parker case, and that was actually non-toxic. There was no resistance because there was no one else really covering it besides me, so it was pretty quiet, but enough people watching, I'd say. And then the Riley Strain case, covered a bit of that. That was quiet. There's a hit and miss one. Because realistically, you cover a case based on interest, but you hope for it to get the awareness and get traction. You know, it's like common sense. You're trying to grow something or maintain. That's what you want. Every time you put Kenny Beach, I see lots jump on and watch. Yeah, I guess. Kind of funny, we're covering the Noah Presgrave case recently. What was that? Oh yeah, there was some person saying, "Oh, breaking news again. Oh, is this breaking news?" You know, being a bit, I don't know, sarcastic or a bit of an undertone to the voice. And it's like, well, some is breaking news. You don't want breaking news? Other bits aren't breaking news, and it didn't say it was, but they're saying I did. People are making things up now. It's ridiculous. Who would have thought it? There would have come a time where all of a sudden people don't like breaking news. What? People don't want updates anymore on cases. I really, really don't understand. I really don't understand it. Just wondering. I think what I probably will need to do, might as well, no offense, to get it done with, because this is the traction. I don't want it to go completely dead. I guess I'll, if I'm in the mood, right headspace, I'll do the other psychology video tomorrow. I think pre-recorded seems to work better. And I don't get it. Because this is titled like how pre-recorded would be. I don't know why it's any different. I mean, maybe 'cause it's live, it's, I don't know, intimidating to, I don't know. I really don't get it because I double checked everything to confirm to make sure people were ready for this, up for it, and there seems to be quite a bit of engagement. Like, yeah, let's do it. I don't see it. No offense to people watching right now, but like the anonymous ones, I just thought this might be the time now. I prefer live, to be honest. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, despite this failure, I'm going to be honest. I'm critical of other people, but that's because I'm just as critical, if not more, with myself in the background. I'd honestly say this is an absolute failure, pathetic on me, as in performance. It's not good, but I'll still obviously consider when I can you reach live streams, even if it's just a way of gathering information or a debrief to do a video. I'll just mention one thing. Where is it now? You know that Nancy Guthrie video that I did? You should see the statistics on it. It's abysmal, and I'm not that shocked because it's just so weird. I know people have their own opinions behind what is considered effort or good quality or good content, not for me to judge, but sometimes when I can or when I want to or when it's the right time, I'll do a bit of cinematic edits, narration, really piece it together in a proper storytelling way. But of course, that takes more time up, more editing. And whenever I do it, the video's nearly always a flop. And I don't get it. I mean, you could argue and say, well, that's a good thing then. It means you don't have to put as much effort into videos, editing. But sometimes I want to. And other times I thought that's just in life. You're supposed to step up. You're supposed to do a bit more, or you go so far and then level up. It's the opposite for me. I really don't understand. Maddie, it's not you, my brother. You do a power job in what you do. I appreciate that. It's good of you to say. Maybe, I don't know if it's the demographic, maybe people don't want it all flashy and fancy. Maybe that's younger, much younger audiences with a lower attention span. Maybe people just want it raw and real with maybe a little bit of waffle cut out. But it's honestly a guessing game because I know people say listen to the audience, but if it's only like one or two randoms giving constructive criticism, other times it's not quite constructive, it's just insults. How can you learn from it when one person doesn't represent the majority of the audience? If a lot of people like keep to themselves, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And if I am doing anything wrong, people vote by watching, and if they don't watch, well, then that's a sign. But how can you improve? How can you change if there's no guidance, there's no feedback? Like when you get products or brands, customer feedback and all of that, optional, of course, but if you want change, something needs to be said. Look, example, make your videos shorter. I did. That Nancy Guthrie video was 11 minutes. You know what the average watch time was? Under 2 minutes. Can't win. I literally, it was 11 minutes to video. Doesn't seem that long, but because of the editing, it took about maybe 3 hours, maybe 4. To put it into perspective, people create TikTok short clips, 30-second clips, and it takes them 5 hours because of all the little editing, intricate details and all of that. Nancy Guthrie, 11-minute video, took me 3 hours or so to edit, and it's got an average view duration of under 2 minutes. The intro of my video was straight to the point, no messing about, had the hook. I put it this way, not AI, but robotic, as in you're doing it really structured and optimized from the thumbnail, the title, the search description, the SEO, the tags. I did everything just right, or at least as close as can be, and it completely failed. The last time something like this happened, and it really did put me off, is when I spent 12 hours every day for 3 days, 12 hours creating a mystery video in regard to Kenny Veach, a fellow friend that had gone missing within the community, spread awareness and try and figure out what the hell's going on. She disappeared from the US, never to be seen or heard of again. The video itself got about 1,000 views, but the click-through rate was like 0 point something percent. And I'm just thinking, how can people honestly not click? Avoid? How can you avoid a video when you don't even know what it's about? There's so many contradictions on YouTube, on the Reddit page of what you should versus what you shouldn't do. I mean, on my second channel, smaller one, gaming, I did it of a certain game. It's niche. Don't expect much from it. And yet it got 1,000 views. Another one got 4,000, and I've only got 400 subscribers. I'm getting more views on a miniature channel than I am on the main channel now. It's not a good look. Let's put it like that. But there's not much more I can do. You know, doing Rebecca Zahau case, doing the psychology videos, I've got no problem with that, as in the standard videos. It's not to everyone's interest and not everyone will relate to it. That's perfectly understandable. But the purpose of covering a case or an area, you're supposed to branch out because you want to, and because you don't want to be known just for covering one case, because what does all that do? You only grew your channel, you only grew your fame off the tragedy of a person. I don't want it to look like that. Really don't know what's going on. And I don't think you can always blame YouTube, because I look at the reach. It was some videos were shown to enough people, but those people just didn't click. And it's like, well, what else can you do? People could say, oh, it's the content, it's the quality of the content, but how can you say it's the quality of the content if you haven't even clicked the video to check what the content is like? You're not going to know. Absolutely lost for words. Yeah, I know. I've got enough Kenny Veach videos to do, whether it's truly the actual number, what I had in my head, or it could be half. Last time I counted, it was about 70, 60, 70 videos on Kenny Veach. But it's like, well, when that's done, then what? I wanted to get to that point now, and what? To still have that in reserves of what can be covered. But then now there are other things to do. I mean, there's a lot of cases, a lot of mysteries, a lot of missing people, but not everyone is popular. And it's like, in all fairness, every case, every victim is important. Unfortunately, not every case, every victim is popular. Bigger YouTube channels have more free reign over what they can cover because they've got a higher number of active viewers coming all the time. But if you're a smaller channel, you're more limited as to what you can cover, because if I decide to cover a different case, there's a very high chance that no one would watch. And then what? I mean, streamers on Twitch sometimes are forced to play the same old video game on repeat because the audience doesn't want another game to be played. Maddie, I was curious, why do you think they filled up that mine shaft? Why now? Good question. So, providing it's all true, 2024, Susan Veach had reached out to either the DNWR or people on behalf of them. That was triggered because at that time, supposedly, really Robin had done a post either publicly on YouTube or messaged her privately, even though Robin denied it after the supposed fake Robin account. Let's just put it that way. That Robin also made a public post in November 10th, 2024 about, I'm going to go here and I'm going to put that pen drive in the mineshaft, which has proof that Kenny Veach is still alive. Fast forward almost like a year on, when Travis Neighbours, a new hiker investigator within the Kenny Veach case, has shown up, and you would have seen him on my channel as well recently. He hiked out there October 2025, and then a month later, you had Driven X Adventures that went out there, and within a month it was filled in, and supposedly that expanding fame and dirt too. Such a shame, but also a bit creepy as well. Last location scent of Kenny, last known beacon, mysteries within the Crystal Skull. So much potential in the unknown and now completely covered up. They say it was for safety, but come on. There's thousands of mine shafts out there. Why does this one have to be the one covered up? Because it's because it's popular? Because lots of people have been there? Well, not many people have they? You're taking all the years that have passed by, not many people have gone there. And even if you fill that one in, what about the mine shaft earlier? The one in the center of the canyon, which off to the left is Joe May Guzzler, I think. And you had you had SB Vegas Adventures that had gone to that other mine shaft, which wasn't as deep, but still a hazardous zone, right? There's other mine shafts out there which Scott Natal recorded, and they were fenced off with barbed wire and not filled in. So why does this one mine shaft have an exception of all things? You can't just use the popularity card, because there's other areas, other things in life which have been made popular because of someone or a tragedy, and they weren't covered up the same way. But why would the authorities take the shaft so serious? There's loads of them. Exactly. You might as well just fill everything in whilst you're at it, right? Way more dangerous mines. Yeah, probably Pitcher Canyon as well. Probably a bit dangerous too. Welcome. If anyone else is watching in the background, you can tell by the title, supposed to be doing psychology and referring back, clearing up any loose ends and helping anyone anonymously and providing perspective and all that with all the videos that I've done, but not really gone to plan this live, not really had much of a turnout. And as for anyone watching in the background, I've not seen any reactions either, at least on my screen, so apologies if I don't see them, but on my screen they're not showing. I hope it's not a glitch. I'm not being rude or ignoring anyone. I just don't see any reactions emojis, so that's just how it is from my end. On mobile device, it was like that a few nights ago. I checked the statistics afterwards, and the emojis did show afterwards, as with the live chat, but I think on mobile it was a glitch, a visual glitch. I couldn't see it. So if anyone was sending it at the time, I didn't see, but I noticed it afterwards. I hope it's not like that here tonight, because if it is, I'm just not going to know. I'm not going to be able to see it, unfortunately. And there's more people joining now, but I don't know if it's worth going on about the psychology, because if people aren't ready for it or don't want it, then it's probably not going to be of much value or use to go on about it. But if people are ready or want it, just let me know with the reactions if you can. I just don't understand. Why does the live not show up in the studio to be able to see it? Nah, people are leaving, yeah. Let's just see if it works on air or not. Just try it anyway. I don't know if it'll work. You don't have to, but if you still hear Maddie, just as a little test, because I don't want to, just to see if it's a glitch or not. If you can, Maddie, just you only have to press it just once and only once. Okay. So on your screen, Maddie, where the live chat is, and you got the little box where it says chat, and then to the right of it, it says emojis, and then next to it, maybe some other buttons. Look across to where you see that heart symbol, hover over it or tap it, and then if it shows like a list of emojis, like a heart, smiley face, celebrations, shocked face, and 100, then I know. Okay. So yeah, that's working, Maddie. Mhm. Yeah, it's working. I can see it on screen. So it's not a glitch. Yeah, I can see the emojis. Hmm. Right, so at least we've confirmed that it's not a glitch. It is working. Mhm. And, yeah, just well, not really needed, but just to confirm, that was, you then, Maddie, pressing all those emojis, wasn't it? Okay. Well, that's good to know that it does work. It's just that on mobile, it must be a visual glitch or something. I mean, I guess the emojis, that button thing is mainly used when people want to anonymously react, which makes sense because to be honest, if people were to react anyway, you've got all the emojis, haven't you? Like, well, not literally, but like from my point of view, just because the channel, emojis there and normal standard emojis, people would tend to just put it in the chat itself. Okay. Hmm. I'm just wondering, maybe the psychology stuff, when I touch upon it, may work better when it's not the main part of a video, like if it's on the sideline. But I thought that it's sprung upon people, you know? A dedicated video, you know what you're getting yourself into. There's, what do you call it? It's like, you know what's ahead, so you can prepared for it if that's what you want or not, but it's clearly not worked. So I'll probably rename the title of this live stream because I don't want it to be clickbait. I can't make any changes just yet. So for each case, is there a point to put across as in psychology? No, Presgrove, absolutely. Mikey Lair, PTSD before Noah's death, possible PTSD symptoms, overlap, triggers, and all that. Post death, from what Caden Pressey described, it seemed like Mikey was struggling. Understandable. Caden Pressey shown signs of survivor's guilt because of feeling to blame, not doing enough, but you weren't to know at the time. But retrospection, in hindsight, you blame yourself. It's unfortunate, but it can be like a natural reaction to find blame in something, someone. Sometimes it ends up being yourself. You can throw yourself to the hounds in a way. It can be hard to see it in a different light or perspective. So there's that. Um, what else is there? You could say maybe some people in the community showing signs of denial at times with theories, ideas, or findings because it doesn't align with their agenda or their reality. Uncomfortable to admit the uncomfortable truth. Makes them feel a bit uneasy, maybe. There's that. The Dylan Rounds case, psychology, it wasn't so much that within the case, it was more so the psychology within the community, how people felt and how people were controlled due to pettiness and drama as like the core areas with common sense and findings there. I mean, you can use psychology to understand cases, understand victims' families, the victim, the friends, possible perpetrators, what's going through their mind at the time. You can do all of that, of course. Um, hmm, what time are we on? Come. The Rebecca Zahau case, you could apply psychology there, as in the dynamic of the living situation, how things were there, how it was for Rebecca, committing to Jonah Sheknai, a new family, being stepmother, maybe at first feeling like the odd one out, not by blood, not by proper connection, feeling like a third wheel, Rebecca may have felt, trying to merge in and to be accepted for who they are and to be a part of that family, but not quite working out. Wanting an escape because of certain unforeseen, uncontrollable events, but not a way out as how it ended for her. Maybe at some point there was a level of regret getting involved or feeling like it could have gone differently. You could say, what happened to Max, the child going over the banister and eventually dying before that, leading up, feeling responsible, feeling to blame, early onset survivor's guilt before it's actually happened. And then Rebecca waking up early hours of the morning to get that voicemail, being stunned, shocked by that voicemail, sending them backwards, knocking them back. Mm. You could say there is psychology in true crime where certain people in life, victims of a crime, maybe, in a way, seek a new case to follow because it's close or they feel they can relate to that story, pushing for justice to get an outcome that they never got in their story, but for someone else. Sometimes that can happen. Maybe that's why some people connect to true crime stronger because they've been there where the victim has, or they know what it's like to an extent. Hmm. But you don't always need psychology. You can just use common sense. That should be enough to get you through to try and keep you safe. Kenny Veach, we don't really get the same levels of toxicity over there. It's a mixture of different age ranges. I mean, Maddie, I came across one person. I think that they were probably much younger in age, but they were quite interested with the case. I was telling them about the what was I telling them about? The cave opposite the supposed covered up one, how Kenny got all scared with it and then moved away quick, and the weird, creepy paranormal voices down Picture Canyon and that. And they seemed quite intrigued by it and believed in it too, which is good. Not demanding people to believe in it, but it's good when people consider it at least, the possibilities, the unknown. I was wondering, when you leave your change, coins, and phone next to a mine shaft, what's your feeling on that? When it comes to the loose change, the coins, that's quite prominent that. Whether it be what Kenny said or what the girlfriend may claim, don't want to leave a trace behind or to be tracked by phone to the final resting spot for Kenny. Well, leave your phone behind, but why do you need to leave your coins behind as well? Because coins can't be digitally traced or tracked, especially not then. So even if you had coins on you, no one's going to track you or find you through loose change in your pocket. There's no way. So by taking that out as well as the phone, Kenny truly emptying his pockets? But what's the point? Leave the phone okay so you don't get traced any further. But coins, pointless. Why take the gun with you, the backpack, and other items? Why not just drop it all behind you? You're going to drop the phone, the coins. You might as well just drop everything near the mine shaft and then just walk on. Or better still, don't take most of that with you in the first place if you don't intend on returning back. There's no use, no purpose for it. If you're going out there to unfortunately end things, why take all that with you? So I think there's more to it, to be honest. The coins, the phone being left behind, a deeper reason behind it. Unfortunately, what we don't know is the condition of the phone. We don't know if it was damaged or not, cracked, broke, the screen, or it was in okay condition besides the battery being dead, I think. If it was all smashed up, maybe it was dropped, maybe it was broke on purpose. But if it was in good condition, it sounds like it was placed down gently. Do you honestly think Kenny Veach would place his phone down and forget it? I don't think so. The coins as well, coins would be at the bottom, deep at the pockets, wouldn't they? So as you reach in, you're probably likely to find your phone before the coins, maybe, depending. Normally, you wouldn't put coins in the same pocket as your phone because it would probably scratch the screen, but getting your phone, sloppy job of them. It really doesn't help when the Red Rock Search and Rescue are very tight-lipped about the information on Kenny and the search. Most of the time there's transparency, but there isn't with this case, so it doesn't do us any favours, doesn't help us learn about the case. Makes everything a lot more mysterious, and the commander, David Cummings, was actually on the search team, but he should have been stationed at the outpost because he's the commander at the time. So why did he have to come out himself, the commander? It's like the equivalent of a military operation in Iraq, and the commander that's at the headquarters ends up being deployed on the field, boots on ground. And it's like, well, should a high value person be out there on the forefront of the battlefield? It's like that with the search and rescue. Why exactly? Just feels like there's more to it. Feels like because it's near to the military border, military restricted land, that there is an extra level of caution and care taken in the area of what can and can't be done, what can and can't be shared. Who's to say that was what was shared publicly Is it really the truth, or is that a cover up as well? There's some things that Jeff Clark want me to look at and give my opinions on, so I'll do that either tomorrow or starting the day after. I just see how things are tomorrow because I've got to type a few loose ends elsewhere outside of YouTube. I said, based on this video, unfortunately, plans have changed. It's a shame that I was actually, ready to go in deeper, try, but people may not be ready for it or present. I just don't understand, Obviously people can change their mind and those that watch in the background may be dealing with a lot, so might not be able to or be ready, but maybe when a person's in that situation, nothing can be planned. Maybe it's got to be done on the spot, maybe. But I guess there's mixed signals because when I did a live stream in the past, I was touching upon just psychology in general and certain topics and themes as you see on my channel, and just based on some of the reactions, it was like either agreement or yes, that's correct or so, and it's like okay, that little anonymous form of communication where there's always a way around it. It might feel impossible, it might feel hard to get a point across, but there's always a way to share certain thoughts or ideas, even if it's in the shadows. There's a way around it. It's like not everyone that watches in the shadows is a spy or a lurker. There's genuine people that do watch in the background. So it was like trying to allow them to be seen or heard, but it's just not worked out tonight, unfortunately. Try it again. I don't know. Drop it in here and there when I'm doing a random Kenny Reach video at the very end. Maybe I could do that. But depends if I'm ready for it as well. Got to be ready to get into it further. So yeah, because I was going to say like ways of communication for those that couldn't. It could be like a certain emoji can represent continue, another emoji could say stop, take a break, have a moment, process. Another emoji could mean could you please repeat it or I agree. Just something like that. Non-verbal communication. Just a little unique way of doing it, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen tonight. So probably cut that short, but big shout out to obviously people that are watching right now. That's obviously a good thing. It does help. I think what I figured out with Kenny Veach live stream, live premiere, not as many people watch live, but more people watch on catch up, and that could just be the time zone difference because of Las Vegas, Nevada, the state, and some other places nearby, hours out from here, like maybe 6 to 8 hours time difference. That's understandable that. With time zone change, I've had to adjust times of when I do my videos. I think originally my premieres used to be at 9:15 PM, and then I pushed it back by 15 minutes or so. I do the live streams much earlier because it's all in the moment and because of so it doesn't interrupt with sleep patterns when going to bed. Maddie, one thing, Kenny's family's still around where they all stayed. I don't know, to be honest. Maybe Sharon Pilgrim is. As for the others, I don't know. I actually don't know. It's interesting, Maddie, because one of the neighborhoods of where, at the time, one of the Veach family members lived, there was Kenny's vehicle caught on camera parked up after his death. So it was in possession of them. Kind of interesting. Could always get back over it. You know what the crazy thing is, Maddie? And Killer Kitty, of course, got neglect. Killer Kitty. Is that there's like one short clip on the case of Kenny on my channel, which is it's got like 400 482,000 views. It's nearly at 500,000 views, 500,000. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think it deserves 480,000 views. I really don't. Maybe 6,000 to 7,000 views. I would take away those 400,000 views and split it, 100,000 to 4 other videos which are longer content and actually cover more relevant, important updates. All I did on that short clip was just to spread awareness about, oh, did Kenny miss the cave he was describing? Anyone could have seen it with their own eyes, but I just did a little short clip, didn't think much of it at the time, and yet it's exploded with views. It just feels very backwards. Not for it to be taken the wrong way, but just in terms of views, I got rewarded for a low effort clip reusing another person's content. Do I honestly deserve that? I don't. I don't think enough people will admit it, but it doesn't deserve nearly 500,000 views. There are other videos more original and more effort put in that should be getting those numbers and not some lazy, low effort short clip. Ridiculous. There was another one like 380,000, but that one, there was more effort consideration into it, giving the route, the coordinates, the distance, the time of the hike itself. Bit more creative, bit more original. I can get behind that, but it's just so silly, so inconsistent. It's like if I don't give a fuck and I just do it, it might perform better than if I was like, right, I've got to take this serious, I've got to be very careful, make it perfect. It's like you're punished for trying to be perfect. You're punished for trying to put effort in to make it engaging for people watching. I really don't get. Don't even get me started on TikTok. Thank God I wasn't relying on that because TikTok is terrible now. Honestly, it's pay to win. If you don't pay to get views up, you're stuck with 200 views per video. You're locked. No matter how good the content, the quality is, or relevant, you're locked. Unless you're a big account with a big following, you're screwed. Unbelievable. Really unbelievable. I wonder if you see where they travel or go, maybe something would pop up. Women getting dressed, 5 million views. Someone dies, 50 views. Exactly. Or degenerative male creates some cringe-worthy short clip. Really cringe-worthy content and it gets 10 million views. Another person spends 12 to 20 hours creating some documentary or some awareness thing to help people. It gets nothing. It's so backwards. Hey, but Maddie, I did 50 Shades of Wrath. Even that didn't work. There's no hope for me. Oh my God. Even when I put a wig on, well, it wasn't actually a wig, it was like a mask, but it had like long hair. Even that didn't work. What I don't get, they say that drama and negativity gets lots of views, but it doesn't. I've tried, not that I've tried it, but just naturally when I've done my videos and how I can come across at times and politically incorrect and some controversial points, but thought out. I could be the darkest person in the room. Sometimes I can be the darkest person, and yeah, even that still doesn't do anything. Not that I'm trying, but just upon reflection of what I've naturally done here and there, it's like, oh well, that didn't work, but people are saying it does. It doesn't. I think it's a luxury. I think it's just a bit random. You don't want it random, then. I'll give you another example. Jay Slater case. The difference between the Jay Slater case and the Nancy Guthrie case is both are popular, but I put a bit more time into researching the Nancy Guthrie case to get more hands-on with the map analysis, with the theories. With the Jay Slater one, I more so relied on the articles and the so-called facts because I was learning on the spot. Yeah, some of the Jay Slater videos got 5,000, nearly 10,000 views. Do they deserve that? Honestly, no. Because I was looking at a newspaper, I was reading through it. Anyone could do that, right? I know I'm putting myself down, but I'm just being honest. Anyone could do that, but those videos seemed to perform and people were okay with them. There wasn't much negativity about it. So when I do a proper hands-on video, more deeper, more visual, more to look at and see, it doesn't work. The Kenny Veach case, we're lucky because of the footage, the hikers, the variety. We're lucky for that, definitely. It helps a lot. One thing very lucky about is the hikers are very reasonable, as in what you can and can't use, and for most part of it is you can. It's not like restricted. It's not doesn't mean say, right, well then use all the footage, just use it all, like replay it all. No, no, no. Still got to show respect and boundaries, but there's a lot more as in reuse of content to be able to complement theories and evidence, very kind and open. That's good. So that applies to Jay Silverheels, Jay Chuck, Jeff Clark, Outpost Mojave, this other guy with a drone around the mine shaft that reached out to me, SB Vegas. I can't remember everyone's name, but just about everyone, every hiker that's gone out there has been very reasonable in terms of how content can be reused, considering how YouTube can be very restrictive. I still find it ironic that time when that documentary used footage of me without my consent and they edited it to make me look bad like I was saying it when I've got the original raw proof of me not saying it. It was what someone else said, and I reused it in my video, and then they had the cheek to claim copyright on me. Talk about kicking someone when they're already down. That was crazy. Sean also did good videos. Yeah, he did, and he was reasonable as well. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a rough patch. That was unfortunate, but yeah. I don't know if it was you, Maddie, or someone else about anyone that gets involved in the case or gets too close to something, some people end up changing in behavior or deleting content. That's unfortunate, but it can happen at times. Anyway, I just want to say welcome to anyone else that's watching in the background. Um, Talking about cases, Kenny Veach, Rebecca Zahow, Neil Presgrove, the psychology behind it, the mindsets, people involved, the victims, different points of views, how it originally originated. I was going to be talking about psychology in general with the relationship, the trauma, healing, regrowing, but don't think people in the background want that, even though it seemed like people were ready for it earlier. So I'm not really talking about it at this moment. Unless people want me to, then I will, but I don't see any signs to do that. So there's no exact reason to follow it on at this moment. Yes, okay. Yeah. That's what I've done, Maddie. Individually with time, you could say this is the core of it. You know, Dylan Rounds, Ned Presgrove, people in the community say, "Oh, why do you keep talking about me? Why do you keep using my screenshots?" And for me, well, it's because in the past, with Kenny Veach, the creators, some of the viewers, the way they changed in behavior, we got to monitor the pattern, the behaviors. We have to monitor it in some way or another, because if we don't, there will be changes. People will come and go, and we'll never know why. Need to have like a before and after, you know? Anyway, it might be somebody else. If it is, thank you for the hearts in the background. I saw them just then. Sometimes it's funny, like, it's like a guessing game, isn't it? You know, like, not like it probably matters as much now, but like when I did the poll, that community poll of the psychology, like where we are right now, I saw um like a person or so vote yeah, and then after it, like later on in the day, it was like an overwhelming no. And I told myself that it doesn't matter if like 99 people say no. If one person says yes, then I'll do a video about it, as in a live stream, because the difference between a true crime case and a psychology clip or talk is a big difference. True crime, that's just based on preference, interest, but psychology, that's based on, well, not literally, not to be taken out of context, but life or death. Lifeline, put it that way. 99 people may not want it, but if one person wants it or may need it, that's more important to cover, despite what the majority may say. And I know that's like going against your audience. It's not a good practice to do, but if it's something you believe in or think is important and someone else does, then it's worth covering, maybe. Oh my God, what's happened to the hair? I swear, the hair malfunctions when I try and do a live stream every time. It never fails to let me down there. I don't know if it's gonna work. I just, I gotta try, right? I'll just give it a little try again just in case. If there was, you know, beside Maddie and Killer Kitty, does anyone watching in the background just watching quietly, just let me know if you'd want me to run it through like a debrief, touch upon the subjects with the psychology, the trauma, the relationships, as what you may have seen previously. If that's something you want or ready for, just let me know. Okay. I appreciate that. Obviously, when I talk about this stuff, I might look a bit disconnected, but I only do that to be able to talk more easier, you know? It's like when I do the 50 Shades videos, I've got to be a certain way to do it, because if I'm not, I might stumble upon the words and stuff. But yeah, I do appreciate it, people that do use those emojis, because I can imagine, if I'm correct in saying, I can imagine how hard it is to try and get your point across if you're not able to type words, you know? It's like you could be near to the keypad and you wanna, like, press the keys, but if you do, it might feel like you're betraying yourself based on what you've told or convinced yourself what you're supposed to do versus what you shouldn't. Or you just wanna reach out and type something in or do something, but you can't because it feels like too seen. But all I wanna say is you're not seen here, in the sense that you're not exposed. I can't see you, but you can see me. But what I've tried doing over the last few months passively to try and create something where like everyone or certain people can be all in the same room without feeling isolated, as what it might be off camera or away from the device. I know every environment and room is different to one another, but here it's all a little bit more even in a sense. That's why I've talked about the digital bubble in a way. Okay, so thank you for the reactions there, whoever that is. With that being said, what I do want to introduce, um, because I want to give you a voice or allow you to have a voice, to have a say, but I think the way to do it can be through the emojis. Um, I don't have any paper, but let me just suggest it right now and let me know if that can be done. So what is the one, two, three, four, five? So there's five emojis. You know, like when I said about when I do a live stream and I talk about psychology, it can be a bit too much. It can be a bit too overwhelming. It might catch someone off guard. I'm thinking maybe each emoji can represent a certain feeling so you can share how you think or what's going on without it being too exposed, you know? So, like the 100 emoji, I'm thinking that can be I agree, I relate to that. It's not that you have to press it, but if there's something that you really wanted to say, but you couldn't do it with words, I want to try and do something which has not been done before. So, all the times in the past, or times in the past, or a moment previously in life where maybe you've lost your voice completely, not through illness here, but you've actually lost your voice because you can't say so. So, it's like trapped inside. It doesn't have to be like that again. There's an alternative. There's a way to break through that wall, but still maintain control of what you want. I don't think it's been done before. Sometimes I just get these deep thoughts where I think there's a way around it, so give it a try. So without waffling on, let me just try and describe what each emoji could mean, and then you can click that particular emoji when I'm talking about certain psychology. Okay. So the 100 emoji could mean I agree with what you say, I relate to that. The shocked face, the wide eyes and the circular mouth just above the 100, that shocked face could represent the feeling of, whoa, that's too much. Can you stop? When I'm going on talking about all the psychology and all that, it gets a bit too heavy, or there might be a trigger or something, or, you know, or you feel uncomfortable. That shocked emoji, if you used to click that, then I know I need to stop, maybe for a few minutes. The other emojis may not quite represent certain emotions, but we can only work with what we've got here. I'm thinking maybe the celebration, the one with the little party hat and the confetti, maybe that can represent, can you please repeat that? I need to process it. There's a lot to process. Can you repeat what you were saying, or could you try and explain it in a different way? As for the happy face, maybe that can represent, um, it's helping, maybe. It doesn't have to help long term. It could just be a short bit of relief, but the happy face, like it's helping, or yeah, you're touching on the correct point. Maybe the happy face can mean, can you talk more about that particular point because it's touching an area that needs to be acknowledged, maybe. And then the heart can be like in support, positive, you know. I hope I've not made that complicated. I'll just go back over what each emoji can mean. Okay, just try and make it clear. The 100 emoji, the reaction one, can mean I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I relate to it myself. The shocked face can mean, can you stop for a moment? This is getting too much. I need time. And then I can pause, I can stop with what I'm saying so I don't flood anyone. The party hat can mean, can you repeat what you were just saying? Maybe reword it differently because I'm trying to process it, trying to understand it myself. The happy face can mean, this is helping me. So then it confirms with me that I can keep on going. And then the heart can maybe be like supportive, positive. Okay. So like if I'm not gonna look at the camera, okay? I'm looking at the chat whilst I'm talking, so then I can see that any moment if there is like a certain reaction, I can stop. Specifically, if there's a shocked face. A shocked face can mean, whoa, that's too much. That's or the party hat, can you please replay it? Can you go in just a bit deeper about it? Because I just need to understand what that means. I mean, most people would just see the emojis and think it means nothing, but I think it's extremely important. I mean, it's something that may have not been done before. So if I can be the first to do it and it can work in a way, that's good. As well, this isn't a one-time thing. This can be forever how long, whether it be always about psychology or covering cases, mysteries. These emojis, I'm not in control of YouTube, but hopefully they stay around for good. They never go away, you know? They remain as they are. That could be your way of getting back your voice. It's like a little step in the process. Can all come together bit by bit, okay? So, with that being said, just a bit of a backstory. When I covered the concept of PTSD trauma, I did it because I feel like I wanted to, I feel like I needed to, and I feel like it would help me in a way. I don't have it myself, but in a way, I feel like it helps. And then with understanding it, it can bring a maybe a bit of closure or understanding. I can be understanding anyway, but I'm not going to be perfect. I can be patient, but I'm not always going to be perfect. So if I can passively learn in the background, then it might help at some point down the line, or if there was like the concept of reconnecting or something, if there was like an opportunity like that, to be on the same wavelength at the end of it, to be able to separate actions from what couldn't be controlled, to understand what was done and like what was done wasn't done with intent in that sense. There's more to it. There's a deeper meaning behind it. I did learn about PTSD and stuff like that back in college, but that was very limited. Back then, all I thought of was PTSD equals going to war. There's obviously more to it, but when you're only taught so much, you're not going to know. On and off, I did meet some people here and there, and ever since, some people publicly have said it in the comment section or maybe on Facebook, dealing with aspects of PTSD. So I have learned that way as well. So yeah. Um, I started researching on and off back in February. I was just using it through Google and then using my own common sense. I was trying to place scenarios in my mind to apply a certain concept of something to try and understand. You can't rely everything on AI. You still got to stick with your own thoughts and beliefs. I also tried using patterns and trends, as in what I may think may not be what's actually happening. Sometimes, or if not most of the time, I can't help it. I think of the worst case scenario. It doesn't do me any good. It probably wouldn't do whoever else any good if my mind goes to a certain place or thinks of it a certain way. Being proven wrong in the past, which is a good thing. Sometimes I've, in a situation, used my gut feeling, but then I neglected it. And then the mind automatically, without my own control in a sense, jumped to the worst case scenario, as in what could happen, as in what's going on, as in the reason behind it. And it turns out I was completely wrong, or I can be completely wrong. So ever since, I try holding on to the gut feeling. And the gut feeling is, let me just put this as a scenario just to, keep it on board. A scenario based on a gut feeling is what could be going on, first of all, wasn't planned. And second of all, it's not what they want either. But it's happened. So that sounds quite plain, but just like a gut feeling in that sense. The other gut feeling, which I've incorporated into my later videos, is certain actions of like trauma and a response to it can be what's being done. I want to try and make this clear so it's not misunderstood. What's being done on the surface layer to the outside world that may not truly know what it's like, it might seem cold, it might seem abrupt, but the gut feeling within is that what the person's doing, part of it, is done as a form of a selfless act. As much as other people may miss out on that said person is missing out on all the other people that they get on well with. But it's this like storm, it's this noise which has got too much, not wanting that to contaminate anything that has been built, as in a friendship or a connection, if that makes sense. You might have remembered it. I did some videos in regard to points of views. I did it as like different points of views, as in if I was in that situation or if I knew of someone in that situation, I would want them to know that things are okay. As in, whilst yes, there might be like a, what do you call it? Like a level of radio silence, but there's no like negativity. I don't think I've ever said it because I didn't know how to quite word it. I probably still don't know how to word it anyway, but I'm going to try and say it. When it comes to life with a person, if in a situation where a said person is in a severe struggle or a severe situation, or if a person is going through a lot, no matter how long it is, going through a lot and suffering a lot, me personally, I could never be mad, angry, frustrated, annoyed with that said person. Now, I know I'm speaking very vaguely there because, you could say outside of PTSD, a person could, bully you or cheat on you or stab you in the back, and then obviously you would be entitled to be pissed off and frustrated. But like in my mind, not for this to be taken out of context, if they're suffering, they're already suffering enough. It doesn't need my wrath upon them when they're already going through a lot. If that makes sense. Now, there have been times in the past, other humans, they've not got trauma, they've not got PTSD, it's just other people many years back, how they've acted or how they've been with me, and the way some things have gone. They've moved on or they've disappeared and they haven't suffered. They're actually better off. And it's like, wow, that pisses me off in a sense, within reason. But is there ever a time where a genuine, real person ends up pulling away or shutting everyone out? There's a good reason for it. A true reason, a real reason. It might not be clear to see immediately, but with time and space or research, you can understand what's actually going on. They don't want it. They don't want that outcome. It could be like they wish they could reach out or reconnect like that now, then, whenever. But it's just not that simple. Can I relate? On a very, very tiny scale, I can relate. It's not serious, that bad. Like in the past, it might just be because I'm shy anyway. That could be a common symptom. But like in the past, some online friends like playing video games and stuff, and either got busy or I didn't have as much to say or I wasn't quite in the mood. So communication slowed down and then stopped completely. And at times they might reach out and say, "What's going on?" or "Hey," etc. But I don't have the energy to respond back. I'm not in the mood. I don't have much to say. And the longer it goes on for, the more awkward it feels to try and reach back out because of the reaction of that person. They're well within their right to react whatever way they do. But it's like the longer it goes on for, it feels impossible to go back. Now, I do use my mind, as in, if that has happened in the past, the person and their situation, do they have friends in real life? Yes. Do they have close people? They do. So me, not vanishing, but fading away because of whatever reason, I'm considering where they're at in life. It's not expected for anyone to be that way, but likely I could because I wasn't in a severe situation. I was just not in the mood or I was busy, messy stuff, whatever, back then. But I can understand, as in the length of time, the waiting game can be difficult. It's like even when you got to do something, if there's an appointment, a phone call, or a chore, something, but it can't be done in your time. It's done when it's ready, or when someone else is ready, or when there's an actual date, time, appointment. It's that countdown. Everything feels so dragged out and prolonged. The anticipation, it builds a lot. Oh, we got Bejeebers. Welcome. Welcome to the channel. Okay. Just seeing what direction to go in. You're welcome, Rajibas. So with the psychology videos, I've done about 68 of them, which probably is quite a lot. I will tell you one thing, and maybe it's biased because I'm not in that position completely, but when it comes to doing the psychology stuff, the trauma, the really deep, dark things, I actually find it quite calming. It's like a distraction, even though what's being talked about is very serious and can be dark or it can be quite deep. I don't know why, but I think that's why in previous videos or sometimes where I may say directly, as in, you think your darkness will corrupt me. Um, no. Or you think your darkness will drag me down. And that's a reason as in a scenario, a reason as to why there would be distance because of not wanting to hurt anyone. The darkness can't hurt me when it's darkness attached to a good person, because that good person is still present and alive. It's just what's attached on, which doesn't define who they are. Of course, it's like a balancing act. It's easy for me to say, "I can handle it." It's easy, I can handle it. How are you gonna handle it in person? Rhetorical question towards me. How would I handle it? How would I react? To them or to a person, it could feel like excess baggage, which they don't want to have, associate with. Don't want that to get in the way of a potential connection, which should be the most important point. But I'll tie on with that rhetorical question in just a second or so. But I think the way I see it is there'll be many times in life where there's a friendship or a relationship 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, shit happens, something goes wrong, an accident, an event, a life-changing injury, an illness, whatever. And it's typically in those situations, with the exception of some, the one who's unaffected by the original thing that's happened remains present because they want to, not because they need to, not because they're forced to, but because they want to, because they think a lot of that said person. Well, if it can happen in that situation, why can't it happen in the beginning? Because not every situation is perfect. Not every meetup in person or digitally is going to be pure and clean slate to begin with. Things might be messy, things might be rough from the get-go, but if handled properly and appropriately on both sides, to get through that at such an early stage would create a hopeful sign that anything ahead would be manageable as well. I think some people, I don't know if it was quotes or people here and there elsewhere, have said, you can't have this or that until you're fixed or healed. It makes sense, but at the same time, it's a bit ignorant. I'm trying to work it out on the spot. If you're not healed, you can't be maybe in a friendship or you can't be in a relationship, but it's perfectly okay to be healthy at first, to find someone, and then down the line, you may break down, something bad may happen, but they're beside you. If it was really true, as in you can't be with someone if you're not healed, then that should mean that if you are with someone and then suddenly down the line you're no longer healed because you're suddenly broken, it should mean that you've got to break up, split up, or part ways from there. But people will say, no, it doesn't work like that. Well, Why is it one rule for one rule for another? It seems like people are picking and choosing. But what I will say is, it's not always about you have to be 100% healed to be able to have a proper connection with someone. You just have to be in a position where you can be honest with yourself and with that said person, whether you're 100% or 0%. Okay, I'll go back over that in just a second. Let me just read the comments whilst I'm here. Killer Kitty, I used to think that the worst thing in life was to end up alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people who make you feel alone. Oh, that's a quote. Okay. Some people are kitted out to stand on that mountaintop by themselves. Other people, not so much. Everyone's got different preferences. Some people are in a position not because they asked for it. It wasn't by choice. So it's just how it is. But to go over the healing aspect, just to touch upon it, a dynamic or a situation could be supposedly feeling okay despite everything because of things pushed under the rug temporarily or distractions about. It's like certain things are dormant like a volcano. Then unexpectedly, a potential connection with someone and that natural reaction, what makes the person them, is expressed and felt. They might call that a honeymoon phase, where everything feels perfect and fine, and there's a bit of motivation and a boost to better oneself. But is it the right time? Or does it feel rushed? Not that it's done on purpose, not that anyone's to blame. I mean, in some ways, you could argue and say, even if it's not done at the right time, for a person to suddenly gain that strength to want to try and heal in some way, whether it works or doesn't, is a good sign to say how much of a possible influence in a positive way that other person had. But if it's rushed, it might not work, but it can work at a different time. It's about trying to understand, as deep, as dark, or as complex as the past can be, the actual stuff is in the past, but the psychological strain and weight carries over, that maybe it feels like that is what gets in the way of this grand new chapter in life. Let me give an example, the equivalent. Let's say you're not fully in the mood or you're not fully quite there in focus, but you still want to read that book. Or there's a lot of noise around, fireworks, shouting, and just people being very loud, but you've got a book. It feels like now is the time to read it, to open that chapter, to start again. You give it a go, you give it a try, you get so far in, then you feel it's just not quite right, or there's other factors about in the background which is ruining this moment. Is this atmosphere or this connection with a book is supposed to be good. It's supposed to be interesting, but it's being tarnished by all the other excess noise around. And sometimes it gets too much where it's like, oh, can't be bothered. Shut the book, put the book to the side, take a step back. It's not that simple, but it's like a metaphor for how a person dealing with trauma, if it's relationship trauma. Let me just add in briefly. I can't cover every angle because I'm not an expert in every angle, okay? Just based on what I've learned and researched over time, it'll be more in the connection relationship area. So it's probably not going to apply to everyone. I know I have touched upon childhood things going on there, but not as deep because I'm not an expert. But I referred to that as an extension, as into how it can link to other events down the line, if that makes sense. But if there's anything else to try and go back over, as in the healing and the being ready versus the not being ready, if that needs to be gone over a little bit, then I can do, if need be. I mean, the first video that I actually did, psychology based, was actually, I can't click on it because I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. But that was outside of trauma. That was just a how to help someone who hates themselves. It sounds quite bold, the title, but there was a bit more to it. And a separate one was how to speak in the face of conflict, how to counter a narcissist. There are ways to counter a narcissist. It might not be what you've experienced, but there are ways to counter a narcissist, protecting your own energy, not using too much up, but still dealing with the people about. I did do a video on how to help someone who's overly apologetic, finding a medium there. Hopefully I'm not moving too fast. Try and go at it bit by bit. But I can slow down for a second if need be. If I don't manage to explain it all here, I can always do a follow-up video, okay? But I appreciate those communicating in the background with the reactions. It helps me know what to gauge and how to go about it. I mean, providing it's not taking away from anyone else in the background, just let me know. Because bejeebers, I can partially explain it now, but I can also do a separate video on it, or I can share you the link to the video that I did in the past of a narcissist, how to counter one. But, if there's anyone else watching in the background that's, trying to process what we're talking about right now, just let me know. Okay. Okay. What I'll do, I'm just gonna spend 1 minute. That might seem hard to believe, but I'm gonna spend 1 minute to give a potential counter. I'm gonna use my phone. I'm gonna share the link in the live chat, so then you can see the video. It is back then, so maybe not as intelligent back then, because it was some years ago. So my mind probably was a bit more dense back then, but I'll share the link and then you can watch it if you want to. And then for those watching in the background, I will return back to the healing and the timing. I will go over that. So, countering a narcissist in a courtroom is the one place where they feel like they have it all. All the attention is on them. They may be up for something. There may be a punishment or a consequence, but it's like their last stand, their last 15 minutes of fame, or, whatever you want to call it, They probably want you to look them right in the eyes, take it all in. But do you offer them oxygen when they don't deserve it anymore? Do you deserve, or do they deserve for you to look at them in the eye? And that's probably what they want. A narcissist can be a person that thinks very highly of themselves, almost like on a godlike status. you have to it can be hard if, you know, you think highly of someone despite everything. It's understandable. It's easy for me to say just because of the way I am, but if you can look right through them, that can counter them. If you can look at them like they are absolutely worthless, it's not easy, but that can help. The way I countered a you might not be able to do this, but the way I countered a narcissist in the past was they think they can't be replicated. They are one of one. No one compares to them. But at times, humans are replaceable and replicated in their voice, their tone of voice, their appearance, their words, their forms of intelligence, or whatever that is. If they can be reminded that they're nothing special and there's other people like them, I don't advise it openly because it can be used by the general public without even knowing in normal situations, but manipulative minimization, downplaying not what they've done, but who they are in life, whether it be their achievements or what they feel proud of, looking at it, even just looking at it like you're unfazed or you're not really bothered about it. It's like, uh, in their mind, it'll be like, wait, hey, you're supposed to be, you know, in awe of this. You're supposed to be jealous of me. You're supposed to be impressed. How dare you look at me with a straight face? That's so rude. Let me just, as I said, I can't explain it all here, but people pleasing, for lack of a better term. So when you say everything was your fault, as in they were deflecting everything onto you. So they were treating you as a punching bag. Now, this does cross over to the PTSD videos, what I've done. A narcissist is more likely to pin the blame on another person because they think so highly of themselves, they can't come round to accepting that sometimes they are wrong, sometimes they do make mistakes. In their eyes, that's a weakness. It makes them less of a person, when in reality it doesn't. But they've convinced themselves that's how it is. So they maintain that always correct nature, always in the right position. Whenever they fail, whenever they come up short, they'll shift the blame onto someone else. So if they were walking into a room and they tripped over and spilt a drink on their top on the floor, if you were sat nearby, if your leg was out or they brushed by you, they bumped into you, they will then twist it and say, "Look what you made me do." And you probably would say, "What? Caught off guard." And they would try and justify it and qualify it. "Well, you had your leg out. I tripped into it. I've spilt the stuff. That's on you." The thing is, it can get really confusing. At the point, it's a sign of when things become too late, as in the gaslighting has already taken place. At first, when the blame is pinned onto you, when you know you've done nothing wrong, you've done everything right, you're minding your own business. At first, you're more likely to take a stand and give a piece of your mind. You stand your ground, as you may normally would in a situation when you can. But the more it happens, it's wearing, it's tiring. Naturally, it can become tiring. Fatigue on the mind, mental fatigue. It's like brainwashing, indoctrination. They drill it into your head enough times, the body fatigues and accepts it. You know, if brainwashing and indoctrination can happen within cults like the Manson family or whatever you call it, other crime stuff and other connections out there, at first innocent and your true self, but then that life gets sucked out of you by the presence of them. They're like a vampire, that wear and tear. Sometimes subconsciously accepting the blame in hopes that that argument slows down. Sometimes you may know you're in the right, but you may not have the evidence to back it up. You may not be able to remember after, but you know you're in the right. But if you stand your ground, if they incorporated punishment or something unpleasant, it means you suffer more. So you concede as a form of survival. You're still worse off, but not as worse off as if you took the other option, even though you had every right to do that. Yeah. A narcissist or a controlling person in a relationship may resort to, how can I say it without being too much, forms of violence or control or something unpleasant because they're not getting what they want and you're too resilient, which is a good thing, but they're losing power, they're losing control. They have to resort to a psychological tactic known as positive negative reinforcement. To repeat a certain action leads to being rewarded. So as long as you take the blame and take the fall when it should be their fault, they should take accountability, but it's shifted on to you. As long as you take the blame, you'll be rewarded, as in no more arguments in that moment, no more punishment, no more cold treatment, no more like doing things separately or things like that where it makes you uncomfortable. That's not how it should be, but that's how it can happen. The negative reinforcement is the first stage, where every time you resist, you stand your ground, they will retaliate with a punishment verbally or physically. And that will have a negative feeling on the said person dealing with it. So eventually that wear and tear, it's like, oh, I can't stand this anymore. Fine, I'll take the blame if it means you stop laying into me. I'll take the blame if it means you stop shouting. It's like a forced negotiation, doing something you don't want to do, but the other option is worse. It feels like a lose-lose. That's what creates the feeling of insanity. Anyway, apologies about that. I know there'll be some people in the background that may think it's drifting away from the other stuff. Let me just try and get the link of the narcissist thing. And then I'll post it in the chat because there's a bit more to it. Oh shit, it's about 44 minutes long, so that could help. But don't worry, as for those watching in the background, I do remember where we last left off, as in the healing, as in, is it the right time to be with someone? Maybe trying and it didn't quite work. I'll explain more about that because I know there's some people, you know, that showed that emoji. Right, there we go. So the link that I've just posted is that narcissist one. It might not explain everything as to your questions because it's an old video, but it might provide a bit more context. Okay. I think the positive thing is, up to now, not that it's a problem at all, but there's not been, from what I've seen, there's not been any shocked emojis in the chat, which up to this point is actually a massive positive, not just for the sake of this video, but for the sake of the people watching. It shows that whoever is watching and listening is able to take it, is able to face it. Maybe because you've gone over it 1,000 times before and the person replayed it in your head. But to have that stamina to become a bit more hardened to it, but not hardened where you truly lose yourself. I said it might be easy for me to see it because I'm not the one in that same exact position. If I was in that same exact position, I would not be able to think as clear. What I feel is those 60 plus videos that I've done, if you found yourself watching them, maybe at first you watched one or two and maybe only watched a little bit because there's only so much that you can take. Because if you're already dealing with it in the background and have been since, to consume any more, even if it's me talking in general without it being too personal to you, it might be like, oh, anywhere where I go, I'm always reminded of the past. But if you find yourself now where you can listen a bit more because you can take a bit more, then that is progress itself. This might be the progress which was never reached previously, maybe with a therapist or CBT. One of the aspects of CBT is replaying things over and over again, and that could be recorded in a session with a recorder. And your task, homework, is to go back home and to replay it over and over again. At first, it feels like there's no escape. When am I supposed to live? When am I supposed to breathe? I do have to keep listening to it over and over again. The aim is, how could you put it? And I'm gonna use an example, okay? Where you get to a point of being desensitized by it, where you become a little bit numb as a way to deal with it, face it, consider. This is gonna sound dodgy, but it's my example of understanding. When you think of horror films, you know, gory stuff, the blood and all that, online, on Twitter, there can be real clips of gore, you know, all kinds, from accidents to fights to prison to all that. I don't like horror films because it plays on my mind, but I don't mind gore. Not that I would like that in real life, in person, but when watching it on screen, it doesn't feel as real. So it doesn't make me cringe the same. But you see it for the first time, it is shocking, it is bad, it can be difficult to watch. But I found if I did watch it here or there, if I watched it, not for it to be taken out of context, frequent, I became desensitized to it. I did not flinch, I did not look away. I wasn't as bothered or fazed by it. The moment I stepped away from it, many months later, and I caught something online, a news thing or a clip that's been uploaded, and it's gory, all of a sudden it feels like, oh, I don't want to see that. That separation from it with time, become more sensitized to it, less numb. It's like training the body or the mind to adapt or put up with it, but it can be lost with time. And the reason why I'm saying that is there might have been a time where a person dealing specifically with PTSD or relationship trauma tried to get help, maybe at the wrong time, or maybe rushed, and that's why it may have not worked. Or maybe dealing with more complex trauma, which CBT will simply not work effectively. But let's say tried it, applied it, replayed it, But if not done enough, it may have not truly led to that desensitization. Or if attempted getting somewhere, but then didn't have that capacity, that energy to keep it up because of life, because of everything else, stepping back, not returning back, there's like a recovery period of becoming more sensitive to it again, you know, like a cycle. All that sounds the opposite of progression, but the reality is, if you found yourself doing all of that and it didn't work, and you convinced yourself that it would, you used as much energy as you could at the time to try it and it didn't work in the end. Yet, if you find yourself here right now, putting up with my voice and giving examples of stuff that you may relate to, with no shocked faces, that would imply somehow you have found a way to listen to it without being pushed away. Now, of course, there might be some people that watch here and there that may not use the emojis, and I simply wouldn't know about that. That's why I wanted to do it differently tonight, as in use the emojis if you can put across how you feel without having to type in the chat. They can, not always, but in this situation, there can be a way around it. There might be times in the past where you genuinely thought when you lost your voice, that's it, until months later, a year later, then you suddenly can talk and be all bubbly again. But this time round, the wait doesn't have to be as long. I mean, ideally, if I actually thought of this good idea earlier on, that probably would have helped as well. But there's a time and place for everything. Not that I know everything, but if I be honest with you, I could sense that maybe the earlier psychology videos will always be the hardest ones to listen to because it's starting off all over again. It's like a new wave, a new season, going over all the same stuff all over again, but a different chapter, a different time with a different person and a different place, a different environment. And it's the difference, it's the changes, even though you're going over the same old stuff, it's the changes which can take time to adapt to. Whether that applies to OCD or not, sudden changes can be disruptive. So if you've gone from a clinical, organized room of 2 chairs, blank ceiling, whatever, robotic voice, person, I don't want to give people a bad name, but people doing their job, as in caring, being there to listen, but they're doing their job. They're being paid to do it, right? So technically, they're supposed to do a good job. They're supposed to do what they're supposed to do. It's not voluntary, is it? Beside adverts on my videos, in fairness, there's no paywall to these videos. I do this because I want to. I do it because I feel I need to. And on the sideline, it kind of helps in a way. So the change of environment, the setting can take time to adjust. Before I go on with anything else, I'll return back to the healing part because I just feel like I need to touch upon it in alternative ways, okay? Because I know that seems like an important point based on certain reactions, an important point to touch upon. It can happen before, but it can also happen during. And I'll give the example of during because that can be more complex and difficult. Things may feel fine or things may feel as they normally do, however you measure that. A person that has a great day, your version of a great day may just be simple peace in here, despite everything else what goes on. Um, a person that has a bad day can be very different to the type of bad day that you have, where it may feel like it's a chain reaction of many things going wrong or many things going on physically or within the mind. But the thing is, if a person finds themselves in a new relationship, even if they secretly made a vow to themselves in the past never to do it again because it's already gone wrong, or maybe it's happened more than once, why will this be any different? I wouldn't take that as an insult. Not that that's ever happened, but if someone truly said what they think, as in, I don't trust you, I don't know if it's going to happen again, I'm not going to take that as an insult. If you've gone through shit, you've been treated like shit, well, then being cautious of me is understandable. What's important is not the beginning, but where things go after that. Do things change? Does the outlook change? And maybe it's when the outlook changes and when things start feeling possible, that's when the danger kicks in unexpectedly. When things start to go right, that's when it all goes wrong. But you're not to know until it's too late. That's not so much in terms of the healing part, but it's in terms of you can do the healing, you can try to get better, whether you're doing it primarily for yourself or you're doing it because you feel you need to be in order to be at your best with that said new person, whether it be an inner feeling of I need to be perfect in order to for them in their mindset what they may think. Things don't have to be perfect. Things can be messy. And in most situations in life, even people that haven't gone through hell, things are perfect now, no guarantee down the line. People can break, people can be torn apart, things can all go downhill in the future. But if it's already messy, if it's already chaotic to begin with, not because of that new friendship or relationship, but because of the past, two worlds colliding at a crossroad, the mind, the brain, in conflict with the heart, the brain stuck in the past feeling the heavy weight, the heart in the present being pulled to delight. Why can't one just rule the body and take over? Because it's like scales, it's like a tug of war. The brain is denying oneself of happiness, but it's also providing a level of protection. But does a person need protecting when they're around a good person? But how are they to them when they've been through a lot previously? Is there any other areas to touch upon in that regard, or should I move on to another area? Because there's obviously a lot more that can be talked about in that area. Even a family dynamic can be a deal breaker or an obstacle when trying to introduce something new into one's life. The background noise, the extension of darkness can feel like it ruins the moment when you want everything to be perfect, and because it's not perfect, it feels like you can't have it. When things are supposedly not perfect, it feels like you can't, or you don't deserve it when you do. But like what Bejeebus was talking about earlier, about getting to the point where everything is one's fault when it's not, but it feels that way, and because of all the background stuff going on, well, it's the same with feeling like you don't deserve something. The reason why you feel like you don't deserve it is because someone told you to think like that in the past. And I've got to be careful how I word that, because I don't want to be saying you need to think like this, you need to think like that. But is there any other way of putting it? All you could say is ask yourself, was there ever a time in life before all of that where you did feel deserving of something? And an example would be, before all that poor treatment, maltreatment, where you are now, what's happened previously may have been in a type of relationship. Well, before that pain or hurt, to get into that relationship, you must have felt deserving of being involved in one before the darkness. So clearly it shows that before it all, you did feel deserving of something and equal to them. But then after, things changed to now where you may feel undeserving, not allowed to be happy, not allowed to have fun, not allowed to breathe, not allowed to shut off, because it all comes back down to who told you and their intent. Feeling like a betrayal of the past, that can apply to survivor's guilt. It doesn't always have to be survivor's guilt directly, but that can be a driving force as well. I do understand I'm probably touching upon very, 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 very important, heavy areas here. If they do need explaining more, I can. As said, just to cut in briefly, what's being said here isn't a one-off thing, you know? It's not a one and done video where it's like, right, you need to listen, you need to get better, you need to heal, and then done. Never again. It's not quite like that. This video, the older videos, will always be available for you to watch. And if YouTube wants to be awkward and try and restrict my videos, I'll try and fight YouTube to make sure that they stay public. But the thing is, the trauma you should be able to move on from the trauma. I know it's not easy, but the videos that talk about it should be timeless, as in no matter how much time has passed by, they can still be of use. I think an underlying struggle some people may face is that self-belief of, I should be healed by now because it's been 3-5 years. I should be normal now. I should be over it. But not everybody recovers at the same rate. You have to reflect back on what you've gone through, experienced. If it was deep, impactful, it's going to take longer. In some circumstances, the length of time that poor treatment went on for could equal the length of time needed to recover, heal from it, if not a bit more. Oh, we got slivering, or welcome slivering. Most important thing in a relationship is to not dissolve into the other person. In that way, just to try and understand, when you say that slivering, are you referring to not losing yourself with another person's struggles, or just the presence of someone else not changing who you are for them? In a way, trying to stay true to yourself, have a boundary, and so does the other person, but there is a bridge to cross over to meet in the middle. And what slivering says there is what can complement back to the concepts of healing. You don't have to be 100% to be with someone, because technically there are many relationships out there where they start off fine, later down the line, then there's a problem or a struggle, but they still stick together because there's that bridge, there's that boundary. If that can be established to begin with, then it can be considered, or more importantly, reconsidered if it didn't quite work the first time round. In an alternative way, the feeling of dissolving could apply in a selfless way, as in a survivor who may get with someone who at first appears more healthier or maybe functional in a way. It's like the inner monologue would be, I don't want my darkness to be absorbed in them. I don't want to trauma dump them because it might be too much. It might be too full on. Will they think less? Will they get scared? Will they run away? But then there's that worry of, is there ever a right time to open up or share? Because the longer it goes on for not sharing it, then it just feels like a heavy weight, suffering silently in the background. And the whole point of being in a new friendship or also a new relationship is not to suffer in silence when that's already happened already previously. That things are supposed to be different this time round and not a reflection or a repeat of the past. There's a lot of caution. This is not on the same level, but it's just another example. Let's say you go to a card show because you collect Pokemon cards, you collect Harry Potter cards, if they exist, you collect football cards, you're passionate about it, you like it, you enjoy it. Then you engage with other people, you do some trades, you sell some cards, you buy some. But there's deceit, there's a bit of controlling behavior, there's a bit of persuasion. Persuaded, convinced, this is a good deal, this is good, best offer ever. You go along with it, and then later you find out that card is a fake. That pack has been resealed and manipulated. You've been screwed over, you've been deceived, you've been stabbed in the back. And if it happens again and again, the next time around you collect cards or go to a card show, you might not even bother. You might stand from afar and just observe and think, what's the chances that person is fake? What's the chances that person's going to turn on me? Is history going to repeat itself? You become an observer of your own life, which can feel rather static, motionless, just a shadow. There's things around, it could be different this time around, but who's to say? Where's the proof? That's what it can be like with a new connection with someone. A different place, a different setting, a different person, but the theme, the word relationship, is the word that carries the weight of the past. It's the word which is like a reminder of the past. Nothing personal, but it's the word, it's the term, it's the possible commitment. As I said, the driving factors behind why it can take longer to recover is because it's relevant to how long you knew of someone, how long you were with someone, how deep you were into that connection with someone. If it was surface level interaction and you've only just met them one day, 1 week, it won't hurt as long. To recover maybe a bit quicker. Not a guarantee, of course, but there's other factors to take in mind there. As said, just as a regroup, if there's anyone else watching or whatever, the 100 emoji represents, or it can represent, I agree with what you're saying. It applies. The shocked emoji can mean this is too much. Can you slow down? Can you stop? The party celebration with the hat can mean, can you repeat what you just said? Because it's important to me, but I need to process it. the happy face can represent this is helping in a way, and then the heart can be supportive. Slytherin says, be yourself, have your own money, hobbies, friends. Of course, not every situation is the same. Some people come with excess baggage, other people come as a lone wolf. What's most important is acceptance between two people, no matter the life situation. If it's meant to be, if it's supposed to work, you find a way through, you look beyond. You see the best in them. You can't see it within yourself. They see the best in you. Many different combinations. It's never just one way or one-sided. I don't believe in the toxic positivity. I don't believe in the positive quotes, the typical regurgitated ones. I think what's more important is basic positivity. Simplistic, but deeper and more meaningful. And malleable, open to interpretation. An example, just me that side, the drink is echoing. An example of a positive dynamic, which individually can feel isolating. One person could feel unintelligent. A person could feel stupid because of how they've been made to feel by the presence of someone in the past that appeared successful or appeared important or appeared intelligent, or that bad person made them appear that way and forced the survivor to see it that way. Not on equal playing field, imbalance, having to look up instead of looking across. That can carry over that weight. So in a new connection or a new relationship, one person could feel stupid or dumb because of the past. The other partner, new person, could feel emotionally dead because of everything that's happened in the past. Or they feel like they've got no heart, or it's not quite there. The important role is for it to be natural. But what can happen, the one that feels or tells themselves that they're stupid and not intelligent, the other person reminds them there's more to them. There is intelligence, as in reminding them of who they are or what they're good at naturally through conversation. Then that has a chain reaction in which the other person may say, oh, thank you, and then says, well, see, you say you're emotionally unintelligent or dead. Clearly you're not, because of the way you're acting now, the way you are, there is still a heart inside of you. So then it bounces back and forth, like a game of ping pong. It doesn't matter who starts it, because end of the day, it's reciprocated in a natural way. And of course, being yourself for a survivor, that can be hard, because they may ask themselves the question, what is it to be myself? What is it like to be myself when I've spent so long being someone else who I'm not? That would be being a people pleaser as a trauma response, being overly apologetic as a trauma response, denying oneself of connections over time because of the past, dressing a certain way different to how maybe one once did previously, self-image, external, everything all different to how it originally was because of trauma responses and the damage caused by a previous partner. where a survivor could face a crossroad now of what is it like to be myself? It might take time to work that out. It can come naturally, but there can be that worry of, does being myself lead to being let down again? Not if you're around the right person. But how do you know if you're around the right person? It can take time. Arm's length is a normal response. But what's important is arm's length eventually eases and melts away slowly. There's no given timestamp or deadline. It just happens with time. That's why I said in the psychology videos, slowly weighing it up, whether that be with the past and the present, or the present and the impact it has on you. If there are certain encounters, moments, or feelings which you've experienced, never experienced before, and if it's positive, then that's a good sign. Or you've been able to do things, say stuff without the fear, without the worry, without the backlash, without the flinching in a way, that's a good sign. As said, if you want me to slow down just for a second, I can. I'm just going to open the window for a moment because it's getting a bit warm. And my back is aching. But yeah, as for the people watching in the background who may have been watching earlier on, if you're still here processing it or whatever, I can slow down if you want me to for a moment. Because in a way, what I'm talking about right now is like months worth of content. So for it to all be thrown into a live stream like this, it could be overwhelming, and that's normal. The thing is, other people will want to be positive without acknowledging the messy sides and the slight negatives. But it's important to acknowledge the negatives in the moment too, to remain grounded, to not get too far ahead of yourself. Some people would say, oh, why are you trying to kill the momentum? It's not. It's reinforcing a grounded approach. You run too far before you can, your legs may give out. You think you can jump that massive gap too soon, you may find out you can't quite in the moment. So you take it one step at a time, and maybe you couldn't take it one step at a time in the past because you didn't have the time, the resources, or if you were trying to be with someone, you felt that you couldn't take it slow based on your pace because it may have felt like you're holding the other person back. But maybe in the end, the only person that was being held back was yourself by not being able to be yourself. Because if they're a real person, if that connection is real, then they would be able to understand. But obviously, at the time, it's not going to be easy to see. Might be a bit easier now, when maybe it feels it's all too late. But any self-blame or should have done this, should have done that differently, maybe you weren't to know at the time. I think in fairness, if you have or previously have unprocessed trauma, that is a massive factor which takes away you feeling like you hold a responsibility to a supposed failure. Unprocessed trauma, when it kicks in is a positive, but also obviously it's a negative. I can explain that in a second if you're ready for it. I mean, on the surface level, it may seem like, how can that be a positive thing? When something leaks out, how can that be positive at all? Well, there's a way of looking at it. I'm just going to stretch the body just a little bit. I thought standing up would have been good, but it's actually the opposite. I've got nowhere else to sit. I could sit down here, but then you can't see me. You can only see my eyes, and that just looks really weird. I can still see the chat though. I'll stand up in just a second. But is there a thumbs up? I don't think there is. I'm actually surprised by it. There's no thumbs up. I thought there would have been a thumbs up on the screen. Oh shit, there's a moth there. Oh my goodness. I think the moth needs therapy as well. I'll book you in later. God, that's a big one there. Get away. Once a moth flew into my mouth. It wasn't ideal. For a second. Ugh. Massive. Right. I'll touch upon trauma leaking out when you least expect it. Why it's a positive, why it's a negative. Just as a little way of giving power back to you, let me know in which order you want me to explain it in. As in, if you want me to explain the positive side behind trauma leaking, unprocessed trauma, the positive side, or the negative side first. Let's just give an example as like a little anonymous vote. If you press the heart, if you want me to explain the negative side first. If you press the smiling face, just for this vote, if you want the positive side explained first. Just let me know what order you want. I think I end up getting mixed up with the bloody emojis. It gets a bit confusing. Right, so, oh my God, I think I've got memory problems now. So it's the positive, it's the, mention the positive side first. Okay. The positive side behind trauma leaking is a sign that there is progress moving forwards. Because ask yourself this, how can you possibly move forwards and heal if there is something locked away which causes you to struggle, the inability to move on, but because it's locked away, you can never touch it? What good does that do? It's like an immovable object. It's like a heavy weight, which is the core reason or part of the reason as to why you struggle, why you suffer. If it can't be touched and it can't be unlocked, what can you do? It feels impossible. There's no hope, there's no chance. Yet, if unprocessed trauma has leaked out where you suddenly got a flashback to the past which you never thought of before, or it was a sensation or a feeling which you could not associate with immediately, that can be a sign of trauma leaking out. It means you've unlocked Pandora's box. For as long as it remains locked up, what good is it? How can you get better? How can you heal if it remains locked up? Something down the line has unlocked it. Being able to unlock it, yes, it's more to deal with, It's like you've got paperwork, you put it through the shredder, there's less clutter, but then suddenly there's a load more papers and letters which have now been posted, and you've got to deal with that now. It feels like it's never ending, but there is an end to it eventually. It's when there's a blockage, when there's no more movement, that's when it can become worrying or confusing. It can still be confusing if trauma does leak out of nowhere. It's like, well, what the hell caused this? I've done everything normal. I followed the same routine, the same rituals. I'm doing the same stuff. I might be pushing my body too hard and distracting myself in slightly unhealthy ways, but I'm still doing the same old cycles. So why should anything be different this time round? Well, in just as an example, based on the definition of a relationship, you get close to a new person, you become comfortable. It's when you become comfortable is when you may become vulnerable. And for some people that have told themselves or they've been convinced that vulnerable is weakness and then can be taken advantage of, it's just best not being that way at all ever again. Subconsciously, you can still become vulnerable. Subconsciously, if a situation is that good or that relaxing, you can be disarmed. It can lead to a level of playful frustration, as in, it's like, oh my God, how can you disarm me? How can you lower my wall? How can you say such words which touch my heart? That's an example. You've built a shield up for so long, you've built a castle to protect yourself from oncoming armies, and then this one person just casually walks on in and finds a way through. How? Maybe because they're the right person, maybe because they act different, are different to the past, and that's why it's a profound difference and effect. At first, a profound positive effect can be deemed as a direct threat on the survivor because it's not been experienced like this before. And if there was ever a time where things looked good and promises were made, they were shortly falling through and the person's true colours showed. But this time round, that hasn't happened. A survivor can go through life or moments waiting for the other shoe to drop off. But if it never happens, it can still be a waiting game. When is it going to happen? When will they get bored of me? When will they think it's too much? When will they insult me? When will they turn on me? When will they hurt me? When will they do something bad? But the longer it goes on and it doesn't happen, the more that survivor starts questioning, oh, I've been proven wrong. I've been proven wrong. I've been proven wrong. Maybe it is different this time round. But before they get the chance to actually make that next jump or leap, that's when that unresolved trauma comes leaking on out, whether that be a heart-to-heart conversation you last had with that said new friend or partner, and then something oozed out which you weren't ready expecting, but it happened anyway. It's a sign of movement. It's a sign of progression. It's a sign of healing. It's a sign of being in the right place, maybe with the right person or the right environment to be able to unlock those core memories and areas. For as long as they remain locked, what good does that do? The negatives are, let's highlight that because we've got to be balanced. The negatives are, it can be overwhelming, it can be scary, it can be use up a lot of energy, it can be very disruptive, it could knock a person back, it could lead to burnout, it could lead to taking time off, it could lead to minimizing, creating a smaller world around them, such as shutting the world out, which unfortunately can mean shutting out everyone. The mind becomes preoccupied with safety. The mind becomes preoccupied with trying to deal with this new wave of trauma, which is unresolved, which links back to the past, which they completely forgot about or never had the chance to deal with it. but there can be a time and a place, and it's important that it happened. As uncomfortable as it can be, the fact that it was unlocked in some way is a sign of progression, maybe a sign of acceptance on previous stuff, if that makes sense in a way. Let me just take a seat. Oh, my back. I need someone to stand on my back. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a lot to take in, but it's not something that has to be taken in on the first attempt, you know? You can't expect to know it all or get it right the first time round. It's going to take time, no matter how long that is. You can always rewatch this live stream whenever you want. It might take time to process, of course, but when it's up, it's up. It looks so silly the way I'm sat here on the bed. Looking M-Cave haircut. Oh my God. Okay. If you want me to explain it a little bit more, the unresolved trauma, I can do if you hit the little party hat. Is it a party hat or is it a celebration confetti? I don't know. I did see the emoji though, so you might want me to talk about it a little bit more, which I can do. Sometimes unresolved trauma can happen because the original traumatic event was quite profound or impactful. So even back then, the defense mechanism was to push it back to the back of the head and pretend like it never happened, but the sensation remains. So when a survivor feels uneasy or uncomfortable or just feels there is something off, but they can't apply a name to a face or a description to an event or a feeling to a level of trauma, it's the unknown, but it's felt there is something there, but can't put a finger on it. And then, in an example of a relationship, you become comfortable, you become more relaxed. Now, for once in life, it feels okay to talk about the past without being judged, without being thought of less, because that can be a possible driving point, not wanting to be thought of less, not wanting to be dismissed, not wanting to be denied, because maybe that's already happened. There might have been betrayal in the past where family didn't believe in you, or even a friend, a best friend didn't believe in you. Even best friends, even certain connections, long standing, been through the wars together, they know what you've been through. A new partner may not know to the same extent as in what you've gone through. So it's like a new relationship may feel like a brand new slate. A close friendship or a best friend is good, but it's that, oh, they know what I've been through. They've been there. They carry the worry. They carry uneasy feelings. And I have to live with that too. But if you find someone brand new or a new relationship, it is like a clean slate. And that's probably why you're extra protective of that new person, even if it can be misunderstood at times as if not interested or not enough progression is being made. What's being expressed outwards could be seen as arm's length, but what a survivor is actually thinking and calculating in here, there's a lot more going on. It may just not be shared or expressed because they may not know how to. I think it's actually an important area. Not for this to sound off-putting, okay? Having a friend or a connection with someone in the past who you're still with now can be a rock, but it can also be in a hard place too. They've been there, they're loyal, they stuck around. But for all the wounds that you have carried, it may feel like they carry scars as well, as in secondary trauma. Whether they admit it or not, whether it actually applies or not, a survivor may feel, oh, I've dragged that person through a lot. I'm surprised that they can still put up with me. You might say that in a joking way, of course, but sometimes it's like I'm doing this as like an inner monologue. I'm not saying this as in what I think. I'm just trying to telepathically speak, okay? It could be like, yeah, I know that person. They've helped me, but I don't want to be a third wheel. I don't want them to stress. I don't want them to worry. But with what's happened previously, what I've gone through or what I've done, they may be on edge. And now I feel, put aside survivor's guilt of a partner, there might be a level of survivor's guilt with a friendship, feeling that there is a responsibility and feeling trapped that you have to show up for someone. You have to communicate with them. Even when you shut the world out, you have to communicate with them, because if you don't, the fear of, oh, are they going to panic? Are they going to overreact? Are they going to come rushing round and what do you call it? Suffocate me. You want your own space. I don't want to jump around too much, but I've just had a very good idea. Speaking of friends or family, if there was a time where you struggled and you were in a separate room and then you overheard a conversation of your own people by blood, your own friends, your own best friend talking about you like you're broken, or talking about you like you're some kind of subject, you're some kind of patient, it can feel dehumanizing. It feels too clinical. That can create isolation itself. You're in a separate room. You overhear them talking about you, even if they care. And it just feels like they're not involving me in the conversation, so clearly they don't trust me enough to involve me. They think I'm too much of a danger to myself that they can't even communicate with me. They might have the reasons, or they might struggle with dealing with it because they might not be a psychologist, a therapist themselves. So it's not always bad intention, but when you're spoken about and you're there to hear it, but you're not involved in that conversation, it can be very isolating, and it can actually make you doubt yourself even more, as in, wait, are they actually talking about me? Are they talking about my appearance? Are they talking about my weight? Are they talking about what I've done? It's a weird disconnect. I don't know if that applies to anyone. I know I'm talking very calmly about all this, but that's just because I'm not in that situation myself, so I need to be honest. But it doesn't have to be trauma related. It could just be some people who you know are having a conversation about you, and it just feels a bit intimidating. It feels a bit daunting when you're left out, and they're doing it with the intent of thinking that you're not there to listen, but you find yourself listening again. Maybe. Just let me know if you want me to go a little bit further with the friendship, best friend dynamic, the struggles there. Because it can branch off in many different ways. The core areas could be by the true bad people, but then the extension of what happens after that is a chain reaction of additional struggles. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a survivor may carry a deep level of guilt, feeling to blame, as in any trauma response, because of dealing with the actual past. It's the actual past, the actual trauma, the actual bad relationship, the actual bad ex-partner responsible, or multiple different partners. A survivor is reacting to that, dealing with it, surviving it, coping with it, or struggling with it. And I said, I don't want to go too deep or too personal, but it could lead to certain actions in the moment where it feels that's what needs to be done, but later it's not what the survivor wanted. But if a best friend or a friend was there to witness it, a survivor could feel like, oh, I've put that person through such a hard time. Me and my struggles, I'm not saying that they are, but in a monologue could say, me and my silly struggles, where you play it down and minimize your own struggles when it's actually more important than what you may describe it as. It might be that feeling of, I've dragged this person through the dirt, through my war, through my battle. I've probably exhausted them. I've probably tired them out. I've probably made them sick to death of me. And there's a fair chance that they still think highly of you and that's not changed. But there might be more concern and more worry because of what may have happened, what they may have seen, what they felt or saw within how you've dealt with stuff. And that can be a natural reaction because it's a reaction of care, but it's a double-edged sword. They're still present, they worry, they may protect you, they may check in on you, they may track you, whatever it is, right? Out of care. But for you, that might feel like, whoa, I'm a bit better now. But this extra level of overcaring, this extra level of aftercare is actually the opposite of being helpful. Because when I say you, I don't mean you watching, but I mean you as in the survivor's friend or best friend. Because of you being extra careful, extra cautious, is actually creating a level of doubt within myself, convincing me that I'm still not safe or sound mind to be normal, to live normal. This extra level of special care is actually making me doubt myself and my own ability. You mean well, but it's coming across as a bad thing in a way, if that makes sense. You want them to say hi instead of, please respond back to me every hour. You want them to say, how's your day, or have you done anything? Instead of them saying, oh, I see you've gone to the shops. I see you've gone for a walk. I see you've spent the day inside of the house. If they were tracking you, and I'm going to say tracking, not in a stalking way, but if there was a time, and it's not for everyone, I don't know if this is too specific, tell me to shut up with that shocked emoji if it's getting too close, okay, and I'll shut my mouth. But if a survivor once was a danger to themselves, because they're dealing with a lot, that friend who may have witnessed it in some capacity may hold that weight till present day. It's a really, really deep dynamic because there's different ways of looking at it. I'm going to suggest one thing now before I do forget. If you want me to go back over this current thing, I can do in a second. But like when they say you don't want to, or you choose not to become the very thing that another person was, you don't drop to their level in a way that could apply to a situation with a survivor where this is very, I don't know if this is too specific, but for this example to work, I've got to briefly talk about it. So once again, if it's too much, just let me know. If a survivor was once a danger to themselves, but before that they witnessed another person being a danger to themselves, and they removed themselves from the world, which then triggered survivor's guilt within the survivor, after already going through enough already with that of a bad person who's now just gone, there might be a time, there might be a moment where that survivor feels unworthy or not deserving of being present or surviving because of self-blame, because of all the words which were put into the airs by that bad partner. It feels like maybe the survivor wants to swap places with that bad person. It shouldn't be that way, but it can happen, that consideration. If that action is followed through with, or there is an attempt, it's because of only focusing in that moment with those current feelings, unable to consider everything else because there's a lot's going on in here. If a survivor follows through with it because they feel it's the only way, that's understandable. But will the best friend, will the other friends around that walk in on it or prevent it? Will they see it the same way, or will they misunderstand? Am I able to continue on with that? Because there is an important follow-up. Okay. If there's a situation where a survivor, in terms of the action, not the intent, but the action is similar to what the survivor was on the receiving end of by the hands of the bad partner that did follow through with it, it's like the roles are reversed for the survivor and the best friend. The survivor may struggle or can't take it. They're about to do what they do. Best friend or friends walk in, see it, or something like that. They may blame themselves. They may have their own little bit of survivor's guilt, as in, should have seen the signs, should have done more, should have seen more. And likely, if that was ever expressed, if you ever knew that, you'd probably say to them, you weren't to know. It's not your fault. I kept it to myself. I hid it, whatever. If there's ever a time where you've ever said that or considered that to reassure that friend, that other friend, that best friend, that it is okay, it's not their fault, as the roles are reversed this time round, it's like role play. You've been there yourself, but you couldn't see it in an alternative way. You felt to blame for the past. And yet, here you may be, or may have been, where you're now in the shoes, same position as a previous partner. And now the friend, the best friend, is reacting and feeling as like what you felt with that previous partner. The roles have reversed. And it feels like they're to blame, but you reassure them with honesty and you explain it clear. Well, then, based on that, if you can apply that to someone else with honesty, then you're deserving of receiving the same by the hands of a person nearby. An outside perspective is needed in that moment. It's the role play as in a distraction from the normal struggle. You've been there, you can relate, but in that moment, that role play or that real time thing that's happened, you get pulled away from the current stuff into the present, and you tell them what you know, what you believe, and what is the truth. And there was once a time previous when you felt survivor's guilt and felt to blame for the previous partner's death, maybe, and a friend or a person nearby, or maybe even a professional, said to you it wasn't your fault, but you were convinced why it was. You couldn't see it any other way. You couldn't look beyond your own feelings. And yet here you are in a different situation where you're telling someone else the reality. It's not that easy, but it's like you have the ability to say it for what it is, but you struggle with receiving the same. You can give it, but you can't receive it because it may feel like you're not deserving of the truth, because you're not deserving in your mind of kindness, maybe. As said, that topic is extremely triggering. So the fact that there's not been any shocked faces at this moment is beyond beyond a sign of progression if you have found yourself in that position. It might be easy for me to talk about because I wasn't in that place. I've not seen it. I've not been on the receiving end, etc., as in eyes, vision, senses, and all that. But if you've experienced it in some way, you're willing to listen right now, that's a massive positive. It's more than a positive. It's more than progression. It doesn't have to be long term. It could just be in the moment, but it's still a sign. But that level of guilt that that friend may carry, they still believe that they could have done more. They should have seen more. They should have acted quicker. But you know that they did everything that they could. But that's the reality for you. You did everything that you could for that previous partner. It's just in that situation, they may have not communicated clear enough, or they hid certain stuff. And in fairness, if you were already struggling at that time because of their own actions, how could you possibly know everything and deal with everything when you're barely holding it together yourself? Without being rude. I'll be honest with you, a lot of these points, what I'm talking about now, I've never mentioned before. So this is actually quite interesting. That's what the important factor is. There is no repetition here because every time you look back at it, you see it differently each time and you see more to it than the last. It adds in context and learning. But once again, just to be honest and realistic, things might feel okay now. They may not tomorrow, but that's okay because there can be a delayed effect. There's still time to touch upon other areas, but just let me know if you want me to give that heads up, as in what that delayed effect can be like. Because it's not always pleasant. It can touch upon the 2 steps forwards, multiple steps back. Just let me know. It can also tie in with unprocessed trauma as well. It all comes together. Okay. So, right now, things might feel okay because it's like in that bubble, that protective bubble. Maybe later or maybe tomorrow, things may feel like they go back to that norm of maybe that severe struggle. In other circumstances, things can suddenly feel a bit of a rush. Sometimes when you're going with the flow, it's just all running off and it's making sense. Open to listening, open-minded, but there can be that vulnerability hangover. A hangover may not be of regret, but that catch-up, whether it be the heart, whether it be the mind, your heart might be responding now to what's been said because it's felt. The heart, your heart is is heard and understood, but the mind maybe a little bit behind. So when tomorrow rolls by, the mind catches up and then panics all of a sudden, thinking, oh shit, too much has been said. I've been too seen. I've been too exposed. I've revealed myself too much. Panicking now. That could have been a cause or could have happened in the past when getting too close to someone. It was all good. It was all working out. And then suddenly there was a delayed reaction within the mind, triggering the panic alarm, the panic station, shutting the world out. Might not be that simple. There might be other stuff going on, but you see where it's going. You might think, why the hell am I telling you this or suggesting it? Why would you want to know what's ahead if it's negative? What good does that do? Because there's a counter to it that you need to consider now and then, tomorrow, next week. You're not too seen, you're not too open, because the reality is, I don't know who's really reacting. People in the chat don't know who's reacting unless you've actually commented. You know what I'm saying? That's why the anonymous emojis are important. So if you feel like a vulnerability hangover of I've said too much, have you really? If you've only reacted with emojis, you've not actually said anything, but you have said more than enough to get your voice across. You get what I'm saying? You've not exposed yourself. You're not too seen. You're not too open. Things don't change. Something to consider and remind yourself if there is that hangover, that sudden change, that vulnerability. Obviously, things could be different on that day. It might be hard to think. You know, like when you're dealing with conflict, you could say, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And when the time comes, you don't. Not everything can be perfect, but just to try and keep ahead or to try and have another tool, accessory to apply, is that when the time comes round and you think, oh, I've said too much, I've opened up too much, or that person has, as in me, has said such things that I have gone through or currently, and it's a bit too real for me. I need time out or I need to shut down again. Small scale, big scale. You have to remind yourself that what you actually did in that moment, you didn't actually do anything wrong. You didn't actually do anything too much. You anonymously reacted. You know if it applies to you. You know what you've gone through. You know how you feel, but no one else knows. It's that anonymity. It's that boundary. You're still heard. You're still understood, but your identity is not compromised. So technically, if the mind convinces you you're too exposed, there's a vulnerability hangover, there isn't really in this situation. Understandably, it might have applied more in the past if you were getting close to someone in real life or digitally, you overshared too much, and then you've felt like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said all that. And then, you know, blame yourself and feel bad and worry what the other person may think. That's direct one-on-one communication, face-to-face, name-to-face, you know? In this case, this is anonymous from the beginning. So nothing is exposed. Nothing is compromised. No one knows at the end of the day, unless you've publicly commented in the chat, but that was a personal choice. As for the anonymous reactions, they're anonymous and they stay anonymous. Even though I'm the channel owner and I can go into the YouTube statistics, all it will say is how many people have clicked the heart, not who clicked the heart. I have no clue myself. Maybe that can be a level of comfort to someone, something to consider the following day or whenever that time comes where there's a sudden wave, a knockback. Again, this can link to unprocessed trauma, because if I've touched upon something tonight which you relate to or feel, something you may have not connected all the dots before or thought of deep enough, but now you do, there could be that leak. Obviously, I don't mean to trigger, the unprocessed trauma. But let's just say, you know me with my words, let's just say everything goes to shit tomorrow. It all goes downhill. What the hell do you do? What you do, you need to make sure that the grounding effect is in place. Gentle, non-demanding movements, whether that just be in bed, no matter how long in bed, it can be applied. Or if you sat down in a chair, no matter how long, it can apply. If you are in the garden or looking out the window or a balcony, whatever, it can be applied. The nervous system needs to calm down first before the brain can. I have videos on my channel which do that. I'm just going to slow down for a second in case you need to process it. And what I'm going to try and do is find those videos, some of them at least. I'm going to paste them in the live chat here. And then it's something you can go back to and look at. But what I will say is, and it is out of my control, when it comes to YouTube, it can take a few hours till the video and the live chat is rewatchable. Okay. It takes a bit of time. I wish it was instant, but it takes a bit of time. So you might not be able to access the links immediately. But what I like to do in certain situations is there needs to be a backup plan, because there is a good chance that you didn't have a backup plan back then when it, not to sound rude, when it all went wrong, when it all went crashing down, or if you reached a burnout because you simply wasn't anticipating it. It's different this time round. That's the key line, like what we said earlier. Different this time round. You could say it's the same shit, a different day. But in this dynamic, it's not quite the same. It's challenging the toxic norm. So what I'm going to do, I need to sit down for a second. I'm just going to find some of the links to the videos and I'm going to post it in the live chat. So then you can watch them. I don't know if it's easier for accessibility, but do you want me to give the title of each video in the chat just before the link's posted, so then you know which one is which? You know, like when you got medication with labels on, so you know which one you're taking. Do you want me to do that? So like if I had a video called how to calm down from a panic attack, if you have a panic attack tomorrow, I know it sounds quite cold saying it right now because it's a serious thing, but if you have a panic attack tomorrow or later or a day after or something, it's like, oh shit, but this time around, there's a link, I can click that. If it's helped before, it could help again. And if you have access to it this time around, it's like a little mini emergency kit. A person could have an emergency kit when it comes to breathing, when it comes to a certain reaction, a nut allergy, whatever it is. You've got a pen, you've got a tablet, you've got something, and it regulates you. Well, just imagine if psychologically there was a little emergency pack already in place, already under control. Of course, still got to be realistic. If something was debilitating, you might not be able to instantly access it or have the strength or the energy. There is still that, and that's just being realistic. Once again, important to be realistic without getting too far ahead. Get too far ahead may lead to disappointment and frustration. Keep it steady. So I'll just find the links now to some of the videos, one or two. I'll give the title, and then when things go downhill, that's if they do go downhill, they may not. It's not a guarantee. You can click back on this live stream. Hopefully it's, processed and uploaded by then. You can come back to this live stream, go to the live chat. Just know you've got to scroll through the live stream for the live chat to catch up, and then you'll find the links, and then you can click on it. Let me just try one other thing, okay? I could try posting it in the comment section, so then you don't have to try searching for it. Let me just see if that works as well. Because the reality is I want to try and make it as easy and accessible as possible, because if it's not easy or accessible, that can create its own stress where you're thinking, oh shit, where is it? Where did I put it? Right, so at the moment, I can't use the comment section because a live stream only shows the live chat. So just for now, I'll have to post it in the live chat. Hopefully that helps. Does it say how far we're in? We are 3 hours, 10 minutes into this live stream. So when you return back to watching this or catch up, skip ahead to the 3 hour mark and it will show in the live chat. I know that's yet another thing to have to remember. If you write it down on paper, it can reduce some of the pressure in there. I'll just get the links now. Right. I've got one of them. There we go. When I shared the link, it actually gives you the full title of the video as well, so you can see it up there. I know it says Dr. Av, but don't be deceived by it. It's not a dodgy video. It's actually a normal one. I know that's hard to believe coming from me, but that is a normal video. Okay. Let's just see if there's any others. There's another one. These are some of the more recent ones. It's the melting aspect to get away, to reduce any guilt, any shame. Of course, I'm talking about panic attacks where it just comes on all of a sudden. I might have given you a panic attack then when I just sprung out of the bed. But nightmares, sometimes nightmares happen before you even get a chance to panic or think. Maybe you once had a deep conversation with someone and it was getting somewhere, and you closed your eyes and then you woke up feeling like a completely different person. Maybe a nightmare occurred during that sleep, like unprocessed trauma leaking into a dream, turning into a nightmare, processing it that way, but quite intense. So by the time you wake up, you might feel exhausted, drained, and feel a bit disorientated, can knock you back. So let me get that one up as well. What I would suggest and advise, whilst this live is still going, if you wanted to click on those links and save them to your watch later playlist, or save it to your favorites list where the little star is the browser, so then you can always click on it immediately and find that video. You can still just watch this live stream, skip to the 3 hour, 10 minute mark, and then click on the live chat, those links. But if you wanted to save them to your own little personal private playlist, so if, not when, but if the time comes, you can access them immediately, not for it to be an overnight fix, but for it to clamp down to try and de-escalate it from getting worse, if that makes sense. I think what's also important, another video to apply would be the bubble effect. The bubble effect, which can shut the whole world out, but for the right reasons. Let me get that link. I'm not saying you have to watch them. You don't have to watch them now. You don't have to watch them anytime, but if you need to, they're there, they're available. Oh yeah, and if you do rewatch this live stream, skip the first part. I was a little bit petty because it was rather quiet at the start, so skip that part. So hopefully those links can help. If there's a time, if it's needed. You're welcome. As an inner monologue from me to you, specifically in the background, let me just shut the window for a second. Obviously, I'm not in your position directly, so I don't want it to come across as rude, but as like an inner monologue to bypass being seen or overexposed, my inner monologue to you would be, I see you without actually seeing you. What else was I going to say? It could be, I understand you without knowing exactly who it is, to maintain that boundary of anonymity. No matter how far or close that boundary. Oh, we got Slicky here, jumping in late. I'm not going to say that typical line of, you're not alone. That's overused too much. It's not the type of language and wording that I would use. My language and wording is really dragged out. But what I would say is, working, okay. What I would say is, if I had a vision, this was it. This situation right now. This is a vision that I had a few months ago. Could it happen? At the time, no. Because I think there's a time and place for everything. What time are we on? Not too bad. I'd do it for like 10, 15 more minutes and then I might need to end the stream. But this doesn't mean to say this is the only live that can be done. Another one can be done, a follow-up, or can reflect back again on stuff. I know it's not that simple, as in it's like, you know, fingers near to the keyboard, right, you need to cover this ref. You need to give perspective on this. I want you to touch upon that. It's like that voice will be, I want you to know what I think, what I feel, but I know that you don't know, but I want and I hope that you can. Something like that. I'm just trying to think. What did I say in the past? I want to be that 0.1%. What, in the eyes of everyone? I don't know. But that 0.1%, as in my stamina is unrivaled. My depth is unyielding. There might have been certain lines and little words and little meanings and little messages and little symbols, you know? Sometimes you may have seen little symbols in the room, in the background. But the reason, I know, in terms of the little symbols and the little signs and the little references, just give me a little sign now if you want me to explain why I did what I did, even if that was months ago. Okay. I did what I did because I never stopped thinking. I did what I did because my thoughts never changed, as in outlook and perspective. It never went negative. Subliminal messages. In other words, certain symbols or certain objects were to represent what was never left, what was never lost, metaphorically. Maybe physically, distance, physically, maybe isolation and all of that. But in a sense, little signs, little symbols to say, to acknowledge you never left. You were always here. And maybe in this situation right now, you're exactly where you are, exactly where you want and maybe need to be, without the pressure, without being too seen, if that makes sense. It's a natural process in that way. It wasn't planned, it was a natural process. And then I reflect back myself and I think, wow, it can all link together. hmm But as for the symbols and the signs, not a big song and dance need to be made about them. It's for those that can relate to them and pick up on it themselves in their own time, in private. That what's created, what's presented along the way is public, but no one knows why it is, but someone may know why it is to them. Just like where we are right now, 4 or 5 months down the line, here we are. Got the live chat, the resilience within people right now in the background. Trying, that's what's most important. Standing your ground as hard as it can be. Another thing that can be done is just to simply reflect on how you handled listening to these videos way back then compared to now. If back then you clicked off or you could only spend a few minutes listening to it because it was a bit too much, if now you've been able to sit through 2, 3 hours of hearing my voice, which is a miracle itself, an achievement, um, it shows you've been able to handle it better than before. You're not expected to handle it, but if there is change, there is improvement, there's progression. So there's that. I'll just slow down for a second, just to let people catch up. And then I'll see where we are there, as in whether to continue or to ease it off, to ask a question about an upcoming video, but just give it a few minutes to settle in. Soothing voice, that's good to know. Soothing voice, but not a soothing hairline. That's kind of gone off. Okay. I wish I had a chair high enough so you could actually see my head. I look like a midget down here. Right. It is 23:45, at least for me. It might be a different time for you depending on the time zone. Ooh. Let me know if you would want another live stream like this sometime. We can always continue on from where we left off, or we can revert back to the beginning. It doesn't matter. "5:45 p.m." Okay. Not too bad time. Yeah, that's one question. I'm just wondering, I said that I was going to do part 2 in learning how to retrust your heart when making decisions for yourself involving someone else, finding or reconnecting, part 2. The first one that I did was part 1, retrusting the heart and understanding the past. The video that I did in between ever since was understanding why the past has a profound effect because of the who and the why. And that's what carries the weight associated with the theme of a relationship, because that's where it all came from. So the concept of a new relationship or a recent one, let's put it, it carries that weight. The part 3 is learning how to retrust, rebuild your heart in the present and ahead, as in the active steps that can be done daily, hourly, whatever, small scale building. That type of video can be done whenever, but I'm just wondering, is it something you would want tomorrow, or would you prefer it to be done in a few days' time? And now, when it comes to day-to-day stuff, it's not day-to-day. It's hour by hour, minute by minute in how you feel and tracking that. And with what we said earlier about how tomorrow or maybe the day after there could be a bit of a knockback, will it be the wrong time for that video to be present for you? Of course, you're not to know what's going to happen next, but it's okay to be honest with yourself. So if genuinely, either way, you would like that video to be made tomorrow, consider hitting the heart symbol. If you would prefer the video to be uploaded in a few days' time after this, once you've processed, or if there was like a calming period, click the smiley face. So the heart, video made tomorrow, the smiley face for the video to be uploaded in a few days' time, give or take that time to process everything to settle. I can still do videos in between because I know it's not easy to predict what will happen next. But once again, this is just a tiny little example of giving power back to you, as in you've got the choice. I know I'm the channel owner, I'm the creator, I can upload videos whenever I want, but these videos aren't all about me, they're more for you. So you should have the choice, as in when they're done, uploaded. So I'm guessing upload that part 3 video, Retrusting the Heart, to be uploaded in maybe 3 to 4 days. Is that more ideal than tomorrow? Just allow things to lock in with ideas. No rush. Hmm. Okay. So I did see a heart there, so I don't know if that means upload the video tomorrow or if that was I agree for the video to be uploaded in a few days' time. I mean, not everyone may think the same, I know that. Like, what I could do is still upload a normal video tomorrow, but on, like, a mystery, maybe, like, as a bit of a distraction. Maybe too many back-to-back psychological videos could be a bit, um, overwhelming, I don't know. Couple few days, okay, Slicky says that, and I think some other people said that as well in the chat. I just wanna make sure everybody has had a say. Okay. Oh my god, it's nearly 000. So I might end the live stream shortly, but what I do want to do is not leave it on a cliffhanger, okay? So if there are any unresolved questions or, anything unresolved, let me know right now if you want to, you know? That could be with the shocked face. If it feels too abrupt or too soon, and then we can tie up any loose ends in a way. If not, I'll do a countdown, okay? It's just with going over such deep stuff, it's like it needs to end on a positive or it needs to end at a checkpoint. Because if it's on a cliffhanger, that might not help. Just give it a few minutes, maybe. Hmm. But it's a good thing we're able to do this, because obviously it's not easy to do. It's not something that can be planned in that sense, you know? But it managed to work, it managed to happen. So that's good. Okay. So what I'll do, just because it's getting very late, I will do a countdown now from 20, and then I will end the live stream. But what I do want to say is this is not a one and done video or one and done live stream where it's like say a lot and then dip, never return back again. There can be a follow up to this, a continuation. It doesn't have to end, it doesn't have to be over and done with like that. It's a continuation. Okay. Is there any final points or any final reactions, whatever that is? Whatever, positive or negative, you can share, or and I'll just do the countdown. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So, hopefully, up to now, things are somewhat okay. And yeah. Any final thoughts? Any final things you want to share? Feel free. And then I'll end the live. It's just because I don't want to end it abruptly, right? After covering such deep stuff, I don't want to neglect anything. Of course, you can always rewatch this live stream if you need to reprocess. Of course, it's not going anywhere. You can always catch up, okay? So I appreciate those that managed to watch, who found this video, were able to listen in, watch along, interact as well. Big shout out to everyone that was able to interact. Michaela, you're watching my other video. Very good. Danke. Actually, which video are you watching? But yeah, I'm about to end the live stream now, Michaela. It's been a very long one tonight, but I'd say it's worked out. So I might try and get a video done anyway tomorrow if there's time. Probably be like a mystery one or something. And then we'll see where we are from there. Hopefully this concept of the reactions of being able to find a voice, even if it's only small scale, hopefully it is working in a way and it's helping. Whether it's been done before or not, hopefully it's like a new alternative. I just thought about it in recent times. I thought maybe try and apply it. So yeah. Okay. Yes, Michaela. A lot of weight has been lifted, literally. MCave expert approves. That's good. What time are we on? I don't know if there'd be like a level of aftercare or anything like that. I don't even know how that would apply. But If you can, if possible, just, I don't know, maybe let me know if we're okay, as in up to this point, and it's safe to end the live stream. Again, I do take this very seriously. Okay, thank you. Just know that this isn't it. There can be more to come. If that's something you want, if it's something that helps, another live stream like this can be done another time. Again, I'll give a heads up again. There's probably still a lot of areas we didn't touch upon because it's hard to cover everything in a short space of time, but you should definitely hold on to the fact of what you've been able to do tonight. Despite everything previous, um, if you've ever convinced yourself or thought you've not done enough or you've not been proactive enough, no matter what situation you're in or no matter what environment you're in, right? It's just important to know that what you did tonight was beyond expected in a way. Just in general, as in dealing with it all in one go. Take care, Michaela. Sleep well in that cave. Make sure you got a blanket. I can touch upon other areas next time round. I will do. I'm just trying to remember, was there anything else I needed to say before I end the live? I'll just say one last thing, okay, and then I'll shut up. You might make so many steps forwards, and whether it actually is or it feels like that, you might have so many steps backwards, and sometimes you might focus more on the steps backwards instead of the steps forwards. But sometimes the steps backwards are actually in disguise of progression forwards. In other words, you may make progress in understanding or healing from one thing, but that level of comfort and openness may then trigger a chain reaction of unprocessed trauma, which at first feels unpleasant and bad. And it may knock you back, as in steps, but it's actually what then enables you to go forwards again, if not more. It might just take a bit more time to deal with the next supposed roadblock in a way. And that can always be touched upon maybe in the next video. Maybe in the next video, I can say, well, what theme to start off with first? I'm not going to say it right now, focus on it at the time, but I could say, right, click this emoji or reaction if you want me to cover this particular area first, and from there on there, okay? But I think a lot's being covered in a short space of time, which is good. And I hope that it was covered enough in each area. Can always return back. It won't be repetition, it never is, because it's important. And it could be important to you. So, thanks for watching. A big shout out to everyone that has watched, and take care for now. As said, any problems later, tomorrow, anything goes wrong, come back to this live stream 3 hours, 10 minutes in. The live chat will have the links to those videos, whether that be a panic attack, a nightmare, the bubble, ways to relax. What I will do, one last thing, if it's not so much the psychology that you need to relax, if it's just simple sounds, I'll give you the ASMR playlist in the live chat. Just as a heads up, I think that 50 Shades of Ref is in that playlist, so if you want peace or calmness, probably don't click on that video in particular. Okay? Let me just get a hold of it. Because the ASMR playlist has, like, you know, the sound of a river or the sound of raindrops hitting a window, in a distressed black and white tone. That might be something you prefer. There's a lot of different clips there. There's actually an ASMR nighttime one to listen to help sleep. There's an ASMR heavy rain on the windowsill, a river sound which is overlapping 1 hour long. There's a bedtime ASMR as well. So it's something to consider if that's what you need, if that's what you want. Ooh, bit late, not mine. I'll just post this before the stream ends just so it saves. As well, before ending the stream, if you wanna do any grounding effect, like tensing your hands, joints, and then releasing, just to release any built up tension, because sometimes when in these moments, there can be adrenaline, you know, when dealing with this stuff, there can be like an adrenaline boost just to help regulate the body and the nervous system so it's not like a sudden drop or a sudden crash. Just those gentle grounding exercises, even when the stream ends, just asking yourself, what can you see around you? What did you just watch? How did it make you feel? You don't have to, but if you wanted like a notepad or to write it down on paper, as in what that live was like, how it made you feel, then you've always got the choice yourself to rip it up, to tear it up, to get rid of. Release in here, release from the body, and then get rid of the evidence, and then there's no worry of anyone seeing it, you know? Just an extra little method and layer to counter any darkness. Okay? So I think I've covered just about everything. I will end the stream in 5 seconds and then we're done. Okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Goodbye and good night for now.